right, I'm going to call the meeting to order. Is there any additions to the agenda? Rudy?
A few additions, Reeve. First of all, item number 5, equine empowerment. Just additional information that Councillor Wiltsey wants to provide when we get to that item. As well, 12A Violet Grove Walking Trails. We ask that you remove that from the agenda. We don't have any information available today. And a couple of reports that are on the agenda have information that's now since been included. 21 Brazeau Foundation, there's an additional report from Councillor Brooks. And on 23 Eagle Point Blue Rapids as well, an additional report from Councillor Brooks.
Any other additions? If there's none, a motion to approve the agenda with the amendments. Dallas?
Yes, I'll move the agenda with the amendments.
Discussion? All those in favor? Carried unanimous. We did the shirt off your back challenge. Additions, adoption of the minutes. Pages 13 to 22. Any errors or omissions? Donna?
I move to adopt the minutes of the regular council meeting, November 19th, 2024.
Discussion, all those in favor? Carried unanimous. November 20th, budget meetings. Anthony?
On page 28,
Go ahead.
motion number 673, where it says moved by Aheimer direct to, it should be to direct. So the words should be switched in order.
Okay,
And then also, if you look on that same page, Bart,
okay.
where it says motion 675, November 20th, 2024 instead of 25.
Kara, you got your light on?
Motion, that's
Oh.
all. I was just waiting.
Okay, go ahead, make a motion.
I move to approve the minutes as as amended.
Discussion, all those in favor? Carried unanimous. And we've got the November 21st minutes. Donna?
Sorry, Anthony has something.
Okay, go back to sleep. Anthony?
On page 37, motion 705, again, it should be November 21st, 2024.
Okay,
With that, Bart, if you're good, I'll move the acceptance of the minutes as amended.
discussion, all those in favor? Carried unanimous. Follow-up action list, Rudy, anything you need to highlight for us?
A couple of items to highlight, Reeve. First of all, item number 563, administration investigating WEC's involvement in the EDA conference. To update council, we have been accepted to present at the Economic Development Alberta conference in April. We're still working on the details of that. Indications from the conference organizers are that there are multiple requests for presentation on a similar topic. They're looking at developing a panel conversation of which we can participate. As those details come available, we'll keep council up to date on that. And just a note on the one completion, item number 702, we did have conversations with Pembina regarding the upgrades to Range Road 63 south of Highway 39. Based on their financial cycle, they've requested to defer to 2026 budget. So that will be coming up in 2026 budget deliberations.
All right, that's it, Rudy?
Yes.
Okay, motion to accept the follow-up action list as presented. Go ahead, Glenn.
I move to accept the follow-up action list as presented.
Discussion, all those in favor? Carried unanimous. CIO report.
Thank you, Reeve. First of all, I'd direct council to item 4A, and it will be pages 38 to 46 in your council agenda package. The direction from council to administration, based on council's code of conduct bylaw, was to generate a list of preliminary investigators that could be used to initiate any code of conduct complaints, as opposed to our current operation where we need to go directly to legal to get a third-party opinion on these complaints. As such, we've come up with a list of 3, including one that we've used in the past, Kingsgate, as well as 2 other non-legal investigators. And this is as per 11.3C in the Code of Conduct bylaw, that CAO refer complainants to a preliminary investigators list selected from a list of qualified investigators. That list is presented before council, and we're looking for approval of that list as a starting point to have that as a portion of our Code of Conduct investigation process.
Okay, so you need a motion to accept this list of investigators? Glenn?
I move that council adopts the list of investigators presented to fulfill the clause 11.3C of bylaw 1174-24.
Discussion? Go ahead, Dallas, and then Cody.
Thank you, Reeve. So just a couple of concerns, comments. Code of conduct investigations are very serious, so we need to treat them as such. So now, I have a couple of questions. Some are in regards to the investigator, and some are more in regards to process. So when we're choosing an investigator, should we know the cost up front before agreeing to hiring someone? In the past, we hired an investigator. We had really no idea what the cost would be, and there was not an investigation, but still we got a bill for $37,000. So in my opinion, that doesn't work.
37,000?
Yes.
Wow.
So I think it's only fair to ask that the investigators will let us know what the cost is, hourly rate, is it a flat rate, give us an estimate, something like that. Do we need lawyers? And can we go to a different, let's get out of the legal world and see who else goes out there who will conduct an investigation for us.
Kara, and then Cody?
Thank you. Because I think, Dallas, you've got more to add. I just wanted to add a little bit into that, too. We're seeing across the province, a lot of people are moving away from going directly into an investigation. They're actually, and I think that's some of the suggestions in here, is to have a preliminary investigator have a look at it and deem whether an actual full investigation needs to happen, or if it's vexatious or malicious and those kinds of terms. And that's we're seeing that reducing some of the costs across the province. These are significant. We're not the only municipality struggling with this. Actually, I think every single one is. There could potentially be some changes in the spring setting with legislation for the provincial government. RMA has been pushing really hard to actually, for the province to pick up the bills on this. And to have like a central third-party investigator, kind of what, actually, to be honest with you, the City of Edmonton and Calgary both have this, and it's an integrity commissioner, and they're actually on staff full-time, so have been pushing the province. This is their legislation, this is their ask of us, that they should be footing the bill for this.
Yeah, and supplying the investigators, it would make it very impartial, too.
Yeah, I agree, so.
Cody, then Anthony.
Yeah, I guess, because I don't remember which one we used last time, was the one we used last time on the list? It is. Okay, so whether it was $28,000 or $37,000, to do a preliminary, whether or not we should have an investigation, that's unreal. That's more than an investigation should cost, personal opinion. That being said, I was not impressed, to say the least, with that last one. I felt that the information that we got from the investigator was lackluster. So if it were me making this motion, I would remove them from the list.
And which one was that one?
Reeve, Councillor Brooks is referring to Kingsgate. They were the one that we used last.
Oh, I see.
And that was through a legal firm. So to Deputy Reeve Ekstrom's point, the other 2 on the list are non-legal, and the cost would be significantly less. But to Deputy Reeve Ekstrom's point, we would get agreements in advance to say that this would be the cost per, and what we will get, council, in these situations is a fee for service. They'll give us a cost per hour, never committing to how many hours an investigation will take. So we are a little bit exposed in some respects in that regard, but certainly the cost per hour would be significantly less than through a legal firm.
Anthony, you had the same sort of comments. Glenn?
I agree with Kara, so I'm going to cross my fingers in hopes that the province just fixes this before, in the springtime. This is just to get us through until then, but this is probably the best solution we have right now.
With the one removed, there hasn't been a motion removing.
The first two are not legal, the last one is legal, right? So administration will have the choice of which one they want to select, right? So leave it up to them.
Well, Cody had a different point where he wanted to remove one. Who made the motion? Okay, to approve the list as amended? As presented.
Legal. The other two of them are not legal. The other one is legal. So just to give us the option, at least then, depending on the seriousness of the code of conduct.
Donna?
I think because the one is legal, that it shouldn't be on this list. And I also was disappointed with that last investigation. What was I going to say? Anyway, yeah, I agree with Cody about taking the last legal one off and then having two, because if we have to go to legal, then we can find legal.
Dallas? You started this hornet's nest.
I agree with Donna. I agree with Councillor Wiltsey's comments. I have another question. It's just in regards to process. And this is one area where our code of conduct bylaw is lacking. In my opinion, there's some step-by-step process that should be included. I think should be made very clear to the public what the process is, and then we need to maintain consistency throughout. And part of that process is who decides whether or not there should be an investigation. So I'm just going off the track a little bit here. If a member of the public or council asks for a code of conduct investigation, or whether it's formal or informal, there must be something behind it. And right now, we don't have a process that deals with that. There's no mediation. There's nothing. So for example, in the last code of conduct investigation, there was no investigation and no mediation. So there's no resolution, there's nothing, it's just left. And that just leaves, in my opinion, dissatisfied ratepayers, and those are the people that we work for. So I think there's a breach in the system that we need to address. It's more process, but.
Rudy?
Thank you, Reeve. I agree with Deputy Reeve Ekstrom's comments. I think a lot of municipalities have felt that they've been left on their own to try and sort this out. I believe also that the province is now recognizing this. I was part of a fairly fulsome one-day workshop in Edmonton in the fall on this topic, and Municipal Affairs for the province of Alberta is seriously considering this request, a fairly significant request from all municipalities throughout the province to consider some sort of an ethics commissioner that would be the first point of contact on these complaints, to adjudicate them, measure them, and then form an initial opinion on that. I believe that based on the feedback that the province has gotten to date, that some form of integrity commissioner will be formed in some updated municipal affairs legislation in the spring. Until then, I think all municipalities are still left to figure this out on their own, so to speak, given the points that Deputy Reeve has made.
Anthony, then Glenn?
We should have our code of conduct bylaw here, but I think from my recollection of it, it does provide for some discussion or when the reeve and the deputy reeve gets the complaint, for them to have a discussion, I guess, for lack of a better phrase right now, sort of what you're talking about, Dallas. And then it goes to this person that does a preliminary, if there is some merit there to have an investigation, then it goes to this preliminary individual who does a more thorough assessment of whether or not there is a violation. And if they found it was, then they pass it on to the real, what I'm gonna call the final investigator. So council is sort of able to say, no, this is just something vexes, or, you know, like it's beyond what we need to investigate. Council has that ability within our bylaw.
Glenn?
During an RMA, one of the breakout sessions was Leduc's issue that they dealt with, the code of conduct. So their council weaponized it, used it on one another, thinking that it was going to be useful and something would happen from it. But after spending $20,000, $30,000 on each one, the best they could do is an apology after all that. So their results were very lackluster as well. I don't know if they were using Kingsgate as well, but they didn't get what they expected. What they did do to remedy it was staff were no longer able to launch a code of conduct against councillors, and the public were no longer allowed to launch a code of conduct against councillors, because ratepayers have other alternatives to deal with councillors. So we could look into if you guys want to open up that bylaw again and adjust it a little bit for maybe some more mediation. I'm not against it. I just don't think that it's going to matter anyway. So once the province gets into it, it'll be all directed through them.
Yeah, I see problems on both sides of it, because if you don't screen the code of conduct, whoever this fellow is will be inundated with every single complaint, because we haven't combed through the nits yet. And what goes to him, well, it almost sounds like everything would go to him, right? Which would just be, they'd have to have a bank of these guys, you know, because if every single code of conduct from councillors or from the public went directly there, well, maybe it would show the province what sort of a problem they've made. Kara?
Yeah, I mean, no doubt it would be a full-time job for somebody, and I actually think a department, like I'm thinking, when we've been in discussions with municipal affairs about it, it's good, it sounds like a department. Like, we're talking 4 to 6 people to handle the amount that's coming in, so, but, I mean, obviously, there is an issue, and I talked to the minister quite, actually directly on this one, pretty much. This is one of our, kind of our top 5 items when we meet with him. They're very well aware. There is some issues with the legislation, the way it's written too, so I would expect some changes. And like I said, the amount of vexatious, malicious code of conducts that have been, the issue has been in the past, we were so far one way, but the pendulum swung so far the other way now. We need to get somewhere into the middle and find some balance with it. So the ministry is very well aware of it. They're trying to work through it. So, and like I said, I agree with Rudy. It's the same thing we're hearing on our end. Changes are going to come to this. So,
Dallas? Healthy debate, let's wrap it up.
In just regard to our code of conduct bylaw, I think it's relatively well. We spent a lot of time on it, and I've been reviewing other code of conduct bylaws and municipalities next to us. Ours is pretty good, but it's still too much subjectivity in there. There's still a little bit of lack of consistency, and I think that needs to be just cleaned up. There's a meaningful discussion here. I'm not as optimistic as some people sitting at the table thinking municipal affairs is going to fix this. I don't believe they will. I believe we're stuck with it, and it's going to be up to us to fix it. So I would like to just revisit it sometime in the near future, if that's possible.
All right, in the meantime, do we want to select a couple of investigators while we're going through the process? But there's still a motion on the floor for 2 and illegal. Who made that motion? I'm sorry. Glenn Gunderson. Do you want to remove your motion so we could change it? Okay, so it's not friendly, you have to make an amendment if you're going to change it. Cody?
Well, I'm gonna make a motion for, what I was looking for. So I move to remove,
Yeah,
Yeah, but I'm amending. That's what I'm doing, okay? As opposed to I move to remove from the motion? Okay, whatever. All right, I move to amend the motion to remove Kingsgate Legal from the list of approved investigators.
Discussion? Go ahead, Glenn.
Again, we have one legal, one analyst, and one consulting. It's a nice blend for administration to have that option to use any of those three, but
Anthony, you guys just won't let this one go, like a dog with a bone.
Yeah, and just because that name is there doesn't mean that's the one that staff would be necessarily choosing. So, I mean, I think it just leaves, as Glenn is trying to point out, if there is a situation where perhaps we want something that's, let's say, offers a broader spectrum of experience, it's in our repertoire. We're not all of a sudden too tunneled. It just gives more choices.
Cody?
Yeah, so this is, I didn't move to amend, because they're a legal firm. I moved to amend because I was disappointed in their performance. We can put a different legal firm there, but I want this legal firm off. That's what I made that motion for, and, yep, that's all it is.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor with the amendment motion? Those opposed? Okay, that's, motion is carried. 4-3, Anthony, Glenn, and Kara were opposed to the amended motion. Now the motion is on the floor, and the motion now has two choices of non-legal people for an investigator. So that's the way I read it. What do you want to do? The motion is to appoint first two companies as investigators. There's always a legal option outside of the, well, this is for the investigators. If you have to move to legal, you can go down that path. Once the investigator does an investigation, there could be a legal ramification. At that point, there'd be lawyers hired. All right, so the motion is on the floor still to appoint the two non-legal representatives. All those in favor? Those opposed? Anthony, Glenn, and Kara. Dallas,
I'd like to make a subsidiary motion if I could, Reeve.
is it on the agenda?
Yep. So I move to direct administration to draft a clear step-by-step procedure outlining the investigation process in our code of conduct bylaw. That's the
Okay.
motion. I just feel that it's too ambiguous.
Okay. So you want to have a step-by-step process drafted up on how to use the code of conduct?
Yes.
Okay. Discussion, all those in favor? Those opposed? Anthony? Okay, you gotta vote with left hands now. All right, returning officer appointment.
Thank you, Reeve. 4B in council's package, that would be pages 47 and 48. As council's probably aware, by default, your chief administrative officer is your returning officer. And we're asking that council, by resolution, appoint Courtney Whalen as the returning officer for Brazeau County for the 2025 municipal election. Courtney's done this for a number of years, and as council is also aware, this process is a longer one now, with nominations now being accepted starting right away in January. So we would then, if council agrees, we would have Ms. Whalen guide these proceedings throughout the course of the year. And of course, come election time, we would go to our third-party returning officer, and then Courtney would become the substitute. So we're requesting that council appoint Courtney Whalen as the returning officer for 2025.
I'm available for any questions that council may have before they consider that motion.
Are you available to be the returning officer?
I'm available to be the returning officer until a third party is hired sometime in the new year.
Do we have to hire a third party?
We do not have to. We have in the previous years. Simply the capacity for one person to do it while also doing the day-to-day business is too much. Also, sometimes the optics of having an employee of Brazeau County being the returning officer who's dealing with candidates, especially if we have some candidates who are already sitting councilors, the perception has a potential in the public to not be as good. So it's nice to have a third party who is completely separate from that. That's what we found in the last, I've now been involved in since 2015. Since the first year I was here, I was involved in the 2015 by-election, and I've been involved in all of them since then. So we've had a third party come in and do the returning officer with the exception of our 2023 Division 1 by-election.
So who's first, Kara, then Donna?
I was just going to motion. Okay. I move to appoint Courtney Whalen as a returning officer leading up to the 2025 municipal election.
Discussion? All those in favor? Carried unanimous. What's that? You're good. Okay, then we've got, go ahead.
Sorry, through the chair to administration, do we know when we're gonna bring the third party in? And then obviously we have to make a different motion.
So traditionally what we've done is probably in the new year, we will look to advertise and see who we get. I believe in 2021, administration can handle a lot of the stuff usually until about the spring. If you remember last time, Donna Palmer came in as our returning officer. And so she sort of did some limited hours, kind of April, May, getting some stuff organized. And then kind of midsummer, she was in the office more regularly. And then of course, towards the end of August and then through September and leading up to the election, she's pretty much, the third party was pretty much full bore. So,
Okay.
So in the new year, we would look to advertise and see what interest we have.
Excellent. Thank you.
Alrighty. We've got municipal election update.
So I will go ahead and take this one off the top. So it's page 49 on your agenda. So I just wanted to come in front of council and give you a bit of an update. There has been several changes that have been brought in through the Municipal Affairs Statutes Amendment Act that affect the Local Authorities Election Act. So wanted to give you a bit of an overview of some of those. We are still working through them. Municipal Affairs has known about a lot of these changes since May, and we've been aware some of these changes are coming. However, until the act came into effect on October 31st, we couldn't really action a lot of these items. So I will make a note that in speaking with other municipalities and other people who are acting as a returning officer, it has been challenging. The time frame is going to be very challenging with everything coming into force on October 31st, and a lot of the changes need to be ready to go on January 2nd when people can start submitting nomination papers. So that has been a little bit challenging. We're still waiting to get some potentially training dates from Municipal Affairs. We haven't had any of those yet. We're still waiting on updated forms. I had an email from Municipal Affairs yesterday in response to an inquiry, and they're working on updated forms, but we don't have a time frame on when those forms will be available. So that creates a bit of a challenge when we're putting together our information packages, but we can go over some of the things that are already in place and that we have kind of been working on. So the first major change that I wanted to bring in front of council is the new updated Local Authorities Election Act allows for council to require candidates to provide a criminal record check when they submit their nomination papers. This is not a requirement, it's at the discretion of council. So what this would be is, if council is interested in this, we would need to bring forward a bylaw at the next council meeting. And this would just state that when people are submitting their nomination papers, which is Form 4 and Form 5, they would also have to include a criminal record check. That criminal record check would then be available for public viewing, the same as the nomination paper is. The returning officer is not able to reject a submission based on what is in a criminal record check. We would just need to check the box that they have included the criminal record check. If that is there, they would then accept the nomination package. This would be done at the cost of the candidate. I've contacted both the Drayton Valley and Breton detachments. They do not currently charge for standard criminal record checks. However, the process is basically they'll run your name. If they can confirm your identity and pull your potential record, then there's no charge because that's a basic one. However, if they run into problems where they can't confirm your identity, that then requires fingerprinting. There is a processing fee for that people would be required to, and the processing time is much greater because it needs to be completed federally. So that is one of the issues. Candidates would be required to go to the RCMP detachment in their jurisdiction. So for a portion of Division 5 and Division 6, that would be the Breton RCMP detachment, and for the other divisions, that would be the RCMP detachment. So today, once I'm done this update, I'm just asking if council wishes to go down that route and require the criminal record check, I would ask for direction to bring a bylaw forward on December 17th. If council is not interested in that requirement for potential candidates, then they can just receive it for information.
Maybe
So-
we should deal with this one at a time here before you go on there, Courtney.
Sure.
I think it gives voter confidence if we require a criminal record check, 'cause who knows what the background is. I mean, I assume you guys are all law-abiding criminals. I mean, not criminals, law-abiding candidates. What's that? Sorry. But I think it gives some confidence to the voting code. Otherwise, they'd have to try to do a criminal record check on everybody that's here, so that's my thoughts anyway. Cody?
Yeah, so I do have a question to the Chair of Administration. The reason that I have this question is that if you want to volunteer in my church, you have to have a criminal record check. I think it's a vulnerable sector check. And in order to get that, you need to get something from the church in order to get that check. So I'm wondering, is there any requirement from the county to get a criminal record check, just a basic one, I guess?
So this check, from my understanding, speaking to the detachments, because it would be similar to a private criminal record check, such as if you would need it for employment, you wouldn't need a letter from Brazeau County approving the record check, because it's just, it's not a vulnerable person's check, so you would just be able to go into the detachment and request it.
All right, we should have a motion in that respect. Donna?
I move to bring a bylaw for the criminal record check to the December 17th meeting.
Discussion? Dallas?
Thank you, Reeve. Yeah, so I've probably done close to 10 criminal record checks now, either working in the high school, church, or coaching youth. And if it weren't such a burdensome task for the RCMP to have to handle this, I would be, more inclined to agree to it. But we spend a lot of time looking for criminal record checks. They spend a lot of time, and I just think it's not a good use of their time. It's important, but it's not a good use of the RCMP's time. If there was some other avenue that we could achieve this result, I would do that. Again, if you have the criminal record check and you have a crime, it doesn't impede you from being an applicant. So it doesn't prove anything. People in the community, if they don't know who you are, when you run for office, people know your background. People know who you are. I've been here for 55 years. People know me. The same goes for you. So I just don't think it's necessary. I think it's over the top.
I don't think it is either, but I think for the optics and for the public's, oh yeah, I gotta talk into the microphone here. You know, it may be a waste of time, but it gives some sort of certainty to the public that there's always rumors in the community too, and this kind of wipes out the rumors. What's that?
But then the criminal record check, if you read this fine print, you'll see that it's not all-inclusive, so it's a little bit subjective again. So it's not the be-all and the end-all. I don't think it's necessary in this case. I think it's necessary in other cases. For sure, criminal, vulnerable sector, that's changed now. And
So what did you do wrong, Dallas?
Nothing. Clean as the freshly fallen snow.
All right. Okay, we'll go to the right side. Anthony, stack them up.
I got a question for Courtney. Can anyone, and I'm just asking because I don't know this, can anyone go and get a criminal check on me?
You would have to request your own criminal record check. It's my understanding, and again, I'm not that familiar with the process, but it's my understanding I could not go into the police station and ask for a criminal record check on Anthony Heinrich. Yeah.
Okay, I was just asking because I
Yeah.
don't know that answer. From my perspective, I think I can see some of the merits in it and the confidence it may give the public, but I also think that we have our CMP that we've hired that they're a unique skill force, and we're finding their time already fairly taxed. And I think to have them do, in this case, if you look at the school boards and county, town, and at least 2 candidates usually for every position, there's close to 35 to 50 people that could be in requesting a check, criminal check. So I think it's going to take quite a bit of their time. So who can do, the question is who can do it? Does it have to be an officer, or is it one of their administrative staff?
That I'm not sure. I'm not sure of what their internal process is. I will say that processing time is not guaranteed, so processing time depends on the amount of requests they have, other policing priorities they may have at the time, depending on how in-depth they need to go. So there is no sort of, when I was speaking to them, there is no sort of guaranteed return on when someone would have them. As to who actually performs that, I'm not sure of their internal process.
And then the bylaw, Bart, and just speaking to the motion, I mean, if we do this bylaw, at least you usually want to know how far in advance of the election this has to occur. And if it's a short period of time, in my opinion, based on the numbers that I just said, 45 people potentially, it may eliminate them all coming back in time for those candidates to be able to meet that requirement, unless we're also, when we set this bylaw, set a period of time far enough in advance, like say a year or whatever, that gives time to ensure that you can get it done. Otherwise, if we're doing like I understand the town one is, if I'm correct in my understanding, it's 45 days before the election. Well, that could be a real bottleneck for the RCMP to get that many done.
Yeah, I'm not sure the times there, but we've got a whole year, and that's why we're talking about it here in 2024. You know, it'll be 10 months into 2025 that, you know, they need an answer. Which, I mean, they could,
They need it right now pretty well because this has to be enforced by January 1st.
Sir, if I could just clarify. So they wouldn't need to have the criminal record check by January 1st. So for example, if a candidate wished to not submit their nomination papers until nomination day, which is September 22nd, then in the bylaw we would establish a time frame. So Councillor Heinrich is right, the town in their bylaw has established 45 days. So if we use them as an example, if they had a candidate that was coming forward on nomination day, which is September 22nd, that person would have to have a criminal record check that was valid within the previous 45 days. So you just need to have the criminal record check completed within an established time frame before submission.
so that's the same as the 45, or that is the 45 days?
Well, in the town's example,
town, yeah.
that would be, so you would have to have had the criminal record check be valid 45 days prior to submitting your nomination papers. If you had one that was, you'd gotten, say, the previous year for a volunteer, that would not be valid because it's not within the time frame that they set in their bylaw.
Is
So we
there-
would be looking to establish a time frame. If this moves forward, we'd be looking to establish a time frame in our bylaw as well. I would be probably looking to suggest something around the time frame of 6 months.
Within 6 months?
But that would be at the discretion of council.
Okay. That makes sense. Glenn?
But for this bylaw to be enforceable, we have to be done by the end of this year, right? with
That's
it?
correct. So we would bring the bylaw forward on December 17th, and it's fine to go through for all 3 readings. There doesn't need to be any public advertising of it. Obviously, if the bylaw comes forward and it's passed, we'll do some heavy advertising of it in the newsletter, on the website, so that people are aware of the new requirement. That does create a delay if someone wished to bring their nomination papers in January 2nd. Obviously, that creates a bit of an issue. However, we have until September 22nd, 2025, so we would just ask those potential candidates to get their criminal record check as soon as possible, and then they can bring their nomination papers in.
I think it's a worthwhile idea, because we're sending people into schools and other places where kids are and things like that. But what about a vulnerable sector check? Is that something we should be looking at too, or is that something we can do? I think you got to have a note from the school first before you can even get that.
I don't, vulnerable sector check would not be something, that's not something that's allowed under
Okay.
the Local Authorities Election Act.
Okay, perfect.
Donna, you gonna wrap this up?
I was just gonna say, like, I don't think it takes much time. They just type in your name and your social insurance number, your driver's license, and it spits out how many tickets you've had, and if you have a criminal record of any sort. Oh, Kara would know.
Go ahead, Kara.
It's not time consuming at all, if you have the right information with you when you go in there. And it's not, they don't know about your tickets or anything. This is actual criminal charges, so just want to clarify that comment. They don't let the public know how many speeding tickets you have. These are serious charges if you've been facing them. There'll be provincial higher up and federal charges, which is not a speeding ticket.
I wish I was an RCMP and then I'd know the answer, but I don't.
And this is
So-
actually an administrative task, generally, when you go into the RCMP. It's the front desk ladies, they help you. I've done this, I don't know how many times, and I'm in and out in 5 minutes, so.
Okay. Whatever it takes, we have time. So right now, is there a motion on the floor? Your motion was to,
Bring back a bylaw for the criminal record checks to the December 17th.
Council meeting?
Council meeting.
Anthony?
We also need to contain in there the timeline of how long, like, is it gonna be the 45 days like the town, or are we gonna have 6 months? Are we gonna have, like, what's the timeline that we have to have?
We could deal with that with a separate motion clearly so that it's clear what we're doing. I agree with Courtney. I think the 6 months is probably a good choice of timelines, but let's deal with that, get this motion, if we're gonna do this first, and then. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Carried unanimous. Now, a motion to come forward with a discussion on December 17th in regards to timelines for the criminal record check. Because it's coming next council meeting. We're not doing it today, but you could make a recommendation to do something. Like Courtney suggested, 6 months.
When I draft the bylaw, in my draft bylaw, I would be putting 6 months for council to discuss unless council directs me to include a longer or shorter time frame. That can be discussed. I can suggest the 6 months, and then that can be amended at the time when I bring the bylaw forward on December 17th. But just to let council know, the 6 months is probably what I will be putting in the draft bylaw unless council says otherwise today.
Anthony?
And the 6 months is not 6 months from now, it's 6 months back from the 22nd of October?
September.
No, so the 6 months would have to be if someone was planning to bring their nomination papers in June, they would have had to have the criminal record check done within the previous 6 months. So they would have had it. It just needs to be completed within the 6 months of when you're bringing your nomination papers in.
So it could, if I brought one in, say I went and got my criminal check, brought my papers in January 3rd or whatever, it could be almost 7 months or whatever it is till October.
But sorry, the date that the criminal record check needs to be valid is the date that you're submitting your nomination papers, not the date of the election.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's what I'm getting at. So 6, 7 months goes by before the election comes anyway, and who knows, I mean, nothing should happen, but you never, you know.
At that point,
What are
there's
you planning,
another,
Anthony?
sorry,
My point in trying to make a criminal check is only good for a snapshot in time. That's all it is?
and so if I can address that, there is another section in the Local Authorities Election Act, and I'm sorry, I don't have it off the top of my head what section it is, but there is a section that disqualifies a candidate, and so that would potentially fill that gap, because you're right, there's nothing to say if you got your criminal record check, someone got their criminal record check tomorrow, brought their nomination papers in the first week of January, and then went out and committed a crime spree between the time they'd brought in their nomination papers and election day, that wouldn't be captured, correct? But there are a few crimes that would then disqualify a candidate. And that's set out in a separate section of the Local Authorities Election Act.
Kara?
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to reiterate, I know an example of a municipality where somebody actually had to step down, their council actually asked them to step down, because of charges that, they weren't no allegations, they were proven in court, during their term. Unfortunately or fortunately, we live in a small community, and if you're up to no good, we know about it regardless, so, and this individual, a smaller community, thought they could hide it, you can't hide things like that.
But isn't the requirement, if you did commit a crime, it has to be in prison for 5 years or something like that? Has to be a sentence of at least 5 years? I mean, that's a pretty serious crime. Go ahead.
And that was the issue, and I know I spoke to this with my RMA hat on when they were formulating this legislation, and I pointed out, you can commit manslaughter and serve less than 5 years. So you can commit rape and serve less than 5 years.
Okay, let's get off this subject.
So, like, that's the seriousness of this, right? Like, nobody's worried about the smaller stuff, it's the bigger things. And the issue was, we had people like that in office with those type of charges.
Okay. Sorry I cut you off, but I need a 5-minute break, and then we'll carry on with you. Go ahead, you're ready there, Courtney.
So thank you, council. So if there's nothing else on the criminal record check, then I will bring forward a draft bylaw on December 17th. Unless there was some other direction on that.
Anthony?
Yeah. So Courtney, how are we going to make sure that the public, that, you know, us councilors now are aware of it? But if someone wants to run, how are we gonna make sure that they're aware of this, that they aren't coming in with their nomination paper and say blindsided, if you want to use that expression?
Sure. So we will do, obviously, I'll update the information in our candidate packages, which, once they're completed, hopefully by the end of this month, will be on the website. There's an election section on the website, so that information will be updated there. If that bylaw is passed on December 17th, we will look at probably doing a separate newspaper ad specifically noting the added requirement. That ad, due to Christmas, potentially might not go in until the first week of January, so we are having a bit of a time delay there in terms of when people can submit their nomination papers. We'll have an item in the Brazeau County News And I can probably coordinate with Ken to potentially do a Facebook post, and then if people need more information, they can contact myself. So we'll try and do all of the regular channels. At the beginning of the year, I am going to be asking people, they don't need to, but I am going to be asking people to contact me prior to bringing in nomination papers, so I can go over some of the requirements with them and make sure people have everything they need. Again, people don't need to do that, but I'll be requesting that in some of our advertising that we're doing, that they contact me first, so that we can talk about the requirements and make sure that people have what they need when they bring their nomination papers in.
Mark?
Go ahead, Anthony.
And with the by-election, the same would be done there, so that, in that event, so if there were a by-election, that any of the candidates that wish to run for that position would be fully aware then, right?
That's correct, yeah, if there was a by-election, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'll move on to my next item. The rest of the items, I don't have any more decision items. These are all just information items for council. So as of right now, the federal election date is also scheduled for October 20th of 2025. Obviously, we do not know if it's going to actually happen that day or whether it's going to happen sooner, but as of right now, we need to commence all of our planning based on the knowledge that we're going to be having 2 elections on the same day. This poses potentially a lot of challenges. We're going to need to make sure that we're doing a lot of really clear advertising for our voters so that they know if our voting stations are different than the federal voting stations. Administratively, one of the biggest challenges we will probably end up having is making sure we have enough election workers. We require quite a few election workers just because of the number of voting stations we normally like to offer our voters. And if the federal election remains on October 20th, they will also be competing with us for basically that same pool of workers. So I have been in contact with the federal returning officer for the Yellowhead riding. So I have been speaking with her. We have talked about some of the potential challenges and some of the things we may need to look at, which may include even up to sharing voting stations if we're finding that we need to overlap some of our venues. So that's just something to be aware of. We'll be monitoring that to see how things go federally, and we'll work closely with the federal returning officer if we need to be coordinating for the same election day. It will be a little challenging for our voters, especially if they potentially have to go to different voting stations, but we have no control over federally where they make their decisions to set up their stations. So that's just for council's information. One of the other significant changes that has come through with the updates to the Local Authorities Election Act is the requirement now for every municipality to have a permanent electors register. So previously, if council remembers, what you would do to vote is you would come in, you'd bring your driver's license and another piece of ID. The worker at the voting station would look at it and say, okay, this makes sense for your division. You'd fill out the form that says you were, allowed to vote there, and then you would have your ballot and you would go. So with the changes, now every municipality is required to have a permanent electors register. This will be in conjunction with Elections Alberta. We will be sharing data with them, they will be sharing data with us, and we will be required to compile this permanent electors register. We've had one information session on this, and we have another coming up later in December. This is, at the outset, going to administratively be a significant workload to get this compiled. We're not 100% sure how the data sharing is going to work back and forth, and we're not sure how it's going to work for voters who are not on the permanent electors register. I'm sure there's going to have to be a mechanism to allow those people to vote, but we're just not sure what it is right now. In the current system, it was very easy because people just needed to have a document that was dated the correct date that said they could vote, a utility bill or sale documents or something like that. We're not sure how this is going to work. I'm assuming there will be a form they need to fill out, but that is still not clear. So just want to let council know that will be a change that our voters will see when they're coming to the voting stations. Hopefully by then, we will have worked out how everything goes, and it'll be seamless for our voters. But it will be something that we need to work very closely with our own GIS department on in terms of getting Elections Alberta the data they require so they can give us the data that we then require.
I got two questions. Kara,
Okay.
did you have a question? You're good? Anthony, you're good?
With the voters list, will the candidates be able to get a copy of that,
No.
or no?
Under the legislation, they're very strict with who has access to this data. Candidates and the public will not have access to this data. It will only be election workers who have taken the oath, as well as the returning officer. We have to sign a data sharing agreement with the province, and in that it will be the returning officer and our GIS coordinator who handle the data. This data will not be available to candidates or the public.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that because that's something that could have otherwise, personal information.
Carry on, Courtney?
Okay, so then moving on to special ballots. This is a change in the Local Authorities Election Act where it is expanding the use of special ballots. Previously, in order to be eligible for a special ballot, you had to either have a physical disability that prevented you from attending the voting station, or you needed to be out of the jurisdiction on the voting day. So we have always, in the time that I've been here, used special ballots. They've been well used for people like snowbirds or people that did have physical disabilities. Now these changes are opening it up so anyone can apply for a special ballot package. So that will be for anyone who is unable to attend the voting station, or basically there's no set rules now on who can apply for the special ballot package. So I'm anticipating that once again we'll be bringing forward a bylaw to allow for the use of special ballots. That probably won't be until the late spring or early summer. We have had very good uptake on special ballots in the past, and it does alleviate some of the concerns in the past before my time, but they used to do the incapacitated voter, where you would have an election worker that would potentially go to someone's house with a ballot box and allow them to vote. This kind of eliminates the need for that, because those people can apply for a special ballot package and then they can just do it and mail it back in or have someone drop it off. And then campaign finances. This is an area where it's really more the candidate's responsibility to be aware, but I did just want to highlight one of the changes that is fairly significant. There has been changes to contribution levels, who can contribute. That's all set out in the new Local Authorities Election Act, so candidates are asked to become familiar with that. However, one of the big changes is that candidates or potential candidates, before they accept any contributions or incur any campaign expenses, need to submit written intention to the returning officer saying that they intend to submit their nomination papers. So say a candidate didn't want to bring in their actual nomination papers until nomination day on September 22nd, which we have had some candidates like to kind of wait until the nomination day, but they wanted to print flyers, do some campaigning, they had supporters that wanted to give them a donation. They need to have a bank account established for their campaign expenses, and they need to provide the returning officer with a written notification that they intend to run before they can accept any donations or before they can incur any expenses.
They have to let you, if you were the returning officer, they have to let you know that they're gonna run?
Correct. And it has to be in written form.
Okay.
Yeah. So that is a fairly significant change, and we will be doing some advertising around that again in the candidate packages that are going to be available, in the Brazeau County News that comes out at the beginning of the year. So we will be trying to get that information out. So that is one of the big changes. Again, there's a lot of things in here that we're still waiting for clarity on. We're hoping that that is going to come forward as we move closer to the beginning of the year and into the first few months of the year. But those were the main highlights I wanted to provide to council. You will see a few things coming forward probably now, not until later spring. We usually have the standard bylaws. We'll do the special ballot. We usually bring forward the printing of ballots and lots comes forward for council. So you will see those start to trickle through in the new year. Other than that, I just wanted to give an update, and if there's any other questions, I can take them now, or you can always contact me. I did include a couple of FAQs that the province have provided on the back of your report, but that's just for your information.
So you got, how to get elected for dummies, kind of an outline?
So I'm working on my campaign packages now. I usually have those available at the front desk at the beginning of the year, as well as online. However, I do like to include the necessary forms, and I'm waiting now on municipal affairs to have the updated forms so that I can include those as well. So as soon as we're able to include those updated forms, those packages are pretty much ready to go. And I usually include in those a copy of the act, some of the pertinent bylaws of Brazeau County, such as the procedural bylaw, and then those are usually available for people to come in and request.
And what about the stuff that we talked about today? Will that,
So I will update the information to include the information about the criminal record check. I'll add that into the, however, we need to wait until the bylaw has passed on the 17th, but I'll start working on something in anticipation that it will pass on
yeah,
the 17th.
just a package that, you know, you go in and say, okay, there's all these timing sort of criteria. You know, if you're gonna submit, you have to do this, and then at the same time, you have to submit this. You know, or whatever the rules are, you know, just for, I just call it elected officials for dummies, right? You know, a Coles Note version of how to actually apply, so. Glenn and then Kara.
Can you explain the special ballots a little more? Like I've seen what happened in BC where after the election, they were finding more special ballots in garages and stuff to add into the vote count. How are ours done?
So ours are done, the special ballot package is requested of the returning officer. The returning officer would put the package together as stipulated in the legislation. It includes the ballot, the instructions, a sealed envelope for the ballot to maintain the secrecy of the vote. We have a separate ballot box that is specifically for special ballots. The person needs to bring the package back in. The returning officer then opens the outer envelope and makes sure that it contains everything it needs to, which is a copy of the person's driver's license, of Form 13, which is the confirmation that they're eligible to vote. Once that's been confirmed by the returning officer, they make a note in our log. We keep a log of all the special ballot packages that go out. We would then make a note in the log that we have received that package back and that sealed ballot envelope has been placed in the ballot box. And then on election day, at the close of voting, we have somebody specifically who takes that special voting ballot box and opens that up, opens all the envelopes and counts those ballots. So only ballots that are in the ballot box would be viable to count toward the election.
Kara?
So RMA and AB Munis jointly are also putting together, so you want to be a counselor package too as well. That'll be ready for the early new year. And the other thing, through my travels and my connections, a lot of municipalities actually host an evening or an afternoon session, and it's so you want to be a counselor. Municipal staff, I know it puts you guys in a pickle, but they stay high level, they don't get into the issues, they just talk about what to expect as a counselor, what's in the purview of municipal government, and those type of conversations. And the feedback that I've had from municipalities that do that, they have feedback that says, this is wonderful, this is what I want to do, I'm going to run for council. And other feedback I have heard is, oh my gosh, thank gosh I have attended this event, this is not at all what I was thinking this was about. And thank you for doing this because I'm not running. So you get both sides of that, and I know a lot of municipalities are doing that. So it is something that this council has to decide if they want to host something like that. But the feedback has been very good, and it's not negative either that somebody shows up and then says they were going to run and then not going to run. Actually, positive feedback, because that's how you end up with really costly by-elections. And that was kind of where this had come from, is to deter people who don't read their packages, who don't do their research, from getting on board and then realizing 2 or 3 days into being on council, what it actually entails. And then stepping back, and then you're running, you know, tens of thousands of dollars again, running a by-election, so. Just put that out there, food for thought. We don't have to do it either way, but it's just, it is.
No, it's a good idea, Kara. I've had people that have talked to me, and they think you make millions of dollars here. And they should know what the reality is, in that regard, so.
Sorry, the other big piece to that is the actual time commitment and what's involved, with the time commitment. We always say, you know, the same thing, if they actually look at our expense sheets, they're like, oh, well, that's not so bad, this looks like a part-time job, but all of us that sit here, Glenn, you're the newest member of council, it's not a part-time job.
Right.
It looks like a part-time job, but it isn't, right? So, anyways, it's just food for thought, what you guys are up to, but other communities do, so it's something that we don't have to reinvent the wheel. I can get you guys into contact with other municipalities that have done this, and kind of what they've looked like, so, just throwing it out there.
Well, it'd be good to have the RMA checklist kind of thing first, and then that'd help guide us to whether or not we want to do it. But it might be a good idea. It might stir up interest too for our positions.
So I will note, just to get Kara's point, AB Munis and RMA, their packages, I usually I include those links on our website, as well as Municipal Affairs will eventually also have some information. So we do include links to that information on our website, in our packages, just so that people have those additional resources as well.
Donna, you're good? Okay.
Okay.
So, thanks. Maybe just a motion to receive Courtney's report for information? Nobody? Go ahead, Anthony.
I move to receive the 2025 municipal election update for information.
Discussion? All those in favor? Okay, I think we're on finance operating line of credit. That would be Campbell, Colin. Geez, I'm doing great with the names today. I was thinking of soup.
That's a warmer day, not much winter. Okay, well, good morning, council. As mentioned on page 76 of your agenda, I do have bylaw 1192-24, known as the operating line of credit for 2025. And for council's information, as part of the budget and the yearly process, we do have a line of credit set up for this, and this is only in the case of emergency where some unexpected instance took place that we were in a bit of a timing gap, whether it be through investments or tax collection, that we would need to leverage this line of credit to get our day-to-day operations going. In my time here, we have never used it, but it's just something for a little bit of extra protection we get in place, and we do not pay anything unless we are drawing on this account. Administration's recommendation is that council give all required readings to bylaw 1192-24 to allow for operational borrowing up to $2 million per annum if necessary to ensure day-to-day operations of the municipality, and the bylaw can be found on pages 78 to 79 of your agenda.
All righty, Dallas?
I'll move first.
Okay.
All right, I'll move that Brazeau County Council give first reading, bylaw 119224, to allow for operating borrowing up to $2 million per annum, if necessary, to ensure day-to-day operations of the municipality.
Discussion? All those in favor? Carried unanimous. Somebody want to get Anthony?
I move second reading to bylaw 1192-24 to allow for operational borrowing up to $2 million per annum if necessary to ensure day-to-day operations of the municipality.
Discussion? All those in favor? Carried unanimous. Kara?
I move to go to third reading for bylaw 1192-24.
Discussion? All those in favor? Carried unanimous. Donna?
I move that council give all required,
No, third
no,
reading.
I move third reading, sorry, to bylaw 1192-24.
Discussion? All those in favor? Carried unanimous. All right. Should have had you at the beginning of the meeting, Colin. This thing moving along at the right pace here. Update rodeo grounds, are you looking after that as well?
I am, yes. And so, yes, as mentioned, page 80 of your agenda, just a request for council decision in regards to just a bit of a cleanup motion to help Community Services Group facilitate their application to the Community Facility Enhancement Program grant. So in order to apply for grants such as CFEP, the motion of support from council must include the total estimated project cost. Making the recommended motion in this report does not change Brazeau County's financial commitment, but provides the additional details needed to apply for this grant. So essentially, the motion made during the budget deliberations just had listed, and it's listed on page 80 there, moved by A. Heinrich to approve up to $37,500 for the Lindale area fencing and upgrades from Major Facility Capital Investment Reserve. Council will just, or administration would just look for council to rescind that motion, and then to please have another motion that has the council approve the area fencing and upgrades to the Lindale Rodeo Grounds for a total project cost of $75,000, with Brazeau County contributing $37,500 from Major Facility Capital Investment Reserve, just so we fulfill the requirements for the CFAP grant.
Cody?
I move to rescind motion 700/24-11-21.
Discussion, all those in favor? Carried unanimous. Anthony? Your light was on.
Yeah, prefer to make another motion?
Yeah.
I move that council approve arena fencing and upgrades to the Lindale Rodeo Grounds for the total project cost of $75,000, with Brazeau County contributing $37,500 from Major Facility Capital Investment Reserve, and the remaining funds to be sought through grant funding.
You guys should get into the fencing business. Discussion, all those in favor? Carried unanimous. That's just my heart stopping, you guys. It's nothing to worry about. No, it's just that my blood sugars must be running through the roof here again, so. Yeah, we can take a 5-minute break. Yeah, 5-minute break. Call the meeting back to order. So you guys here for Range Road 63? Because there is no planning. Oh, it's 10:30. 10:30, we have the, I think it's the equine, if I remember right here. Go ahead, Donna.
I just want to read this out before our delegate does her spiel. Recently, I was fortunate enough to attend the HCC, which is Healthy Communities Coalition, Youth Homelessness and Financial Strain Forum. One of the Wild Rose School Division directors and I chatted afterwards. I asked him whose job it was to see that students who may fall through the cracks get the resources they need. His answer was that school division pays for counseling. I didn't add this, but it's never enough. Earlier this month at RMA, I spoke with one of the Wetaskiwin County's counselors. Through that conversation, I found that their county pays for students from Winfield, Buck Mountain, and Alder Flats to attend the equine empowerment in our county. I recall being in awe of this facility a few years back when we toured it. I'll let Shannon talk about it, but I still, first I'm going to set out a hypothetical situation. If a student in grade 12 gets a few counseling sessions, perhaps no time to teach this young person how to use the coping skills in real life situations. This person gets a job, fails, gets another job, fails, doesn't know how to interact or ask what he needs. nowhere to go because she is already staying at different friends' places. He is not making money, becomes desperate to feel like he fits in somewhere, desperate and depressed, turns to drugs to feel better, albeit for a short term. This is just a scenario. If she had counseling along with how to use these skills in real life, perhaps that would be the win, just the little extra. It may be that one of those homeless people we drive by every day could have been saved from the agony of the life they are living. We are so fortunate to have this facility in our backyard, and it will help if it helps just one person make a safer choice, we are doing our community service. As leaders in the community, we have a duty to do all we can to level the playing field for these young people. And I'll go into the costs after Shannon does her thing.
Good morning, Council. And thank you, Councillor Wesley, for your kind words and introduction of me. I'm very excited to speak here today. As you certainly can attest, it's my favorite topic. So Equine Empowerment is an equine-assisted learning program that's designed to help at-risk youth build social skills and manage their emotions while working with horses, and then learn how to transfer those skills into other areas of their life. It really is my pleasure to talk to you and outline the purpose and intention behind the program. And as you've noticed in the information I provided you with, EQE is beginning its 7th year in Brazeau County and has worked with many kids from this county and others, close to 500 now. And we primarily work with at-risk youth, but we also do reward programs for students, professional development, fun days at the barn, and leadership groups. I want to divide my remarks into 2 parts. I'll first outline how the program is accessed by the students and what it looks like from the day-to-day. And then for the second part, I'd like to touch base on the 3 core principles that guide why we work with these kids. Really quick, why horses? We need to address why horses are the animal we work with and why they're most effective at facilitating a behavioral change and reflection in students. First of all, horses are a vacuum to leadership, and believe it or not, they're entirely predictable in their responses, even though everyone probably has a terrible horse story in their pocket. They do have a very predictable response to pressure and calm. They're a prey animal, so we know what they're going to do, and they act as a mirror and empathy bridge to what the students are feeling. And lastly, they're really big, so we know their response very visibly immediately. First, schools get together and group students that benefit from coming to the program to develop their social and emotional skills. Typically, schools put like with like. So students who are all showing aggressive behaviors, or students who socially are not fitting in or having anxiety about being with their peer groups, things like that. Then they solidify the funding, come to the barn, and find busing. This is different for every school. Some have teacher drivers who carry additional insurance and drive them out. Some hire bus companies. Some have drivers who volunteer. But this is up to the schools to plan and organize. Some schools do 2 weeks, some book for 12. Right now we're on our 14th week with outreach. And the student numbers and busing varies depending on the school's individual needs. They then book a time slot at the barn for 8 weeks. And it's important to mention there's no riding at the barn ever. Everything is groundwork with groups so that each person can practice and think about how they talk to people. How do you come across to other people? What do you bring into the room? It's used as a time to reflect on how students come across to the world. Now, to give an example of an activity that we do at the barn, this is a really common task or day. And this is what the scenario would look like. Let's say 6 grade 10, 11 boys with aggression issues come and arrive at the barn. They first would come up to the classroom and we would discuss the goal of the day is thinking about how you talk to other people. How do you approach others? We would talk about how the horse is part of their team. They then need to complete the task with the horse as a partner, all the while watching if the horse has a soft eye, level neck and back, and licking their lips. They then go down to the barn and we would link 2 kids to each horse with their own halter shank. They would then be a team, 2 children, 2 ropes, 1 horse. They then would have a series of tasks to complete and obstacles throughout the barn, like get your horse to step into a square set up in the arena with a glove in the middle, and ask your horse to put their foot on that glove. As the boys work to complete this task, many different things are happening at once. First of all, they're having to work together and speak in a way to other people that makes them want to help you. Second of all, they're using the horse as a barometer to gauge if the way they're asking is working, because we all know you can't make a horse do anything it doesn't want to do. And third, we're building a sense of empathy in the students because many students have a greater sense of empathy for animals than they do for people. And last, we're offering a rural learning environment that's completely different than a typical classroom. There's no technology, no traffic, no noise, none of the other stuff. It's just animals outside sometimes and mostly in the indoor arena through the winter. We then head back up to the classroom and discuss what they did well. Was the horse comfortable? Were they able to complete the task? It's at this exact moment that the parallel to where else in their life they could use that skill comes into play. What if you spoke to your teachers the same way, or your parents, or peers in the school? What if you approached other people the same way you did with your team and the horse? Could you get a different result? And can you have more control over these situations in your life? And could addressing your own behavior be what creates a change? This is why it's called empowerment. We provide a toolbox of skills with the horses that they can take and implement in other areas of their life. This is just one example, of course. Classes include body language, talk and tone, judgment, connection, and all these types of things. They come to the barn for the 8 weeks and practice these skills over that time. And then weekly, after they leave the barn, we send an email to the schools outlining the skill that we're practicing, what horses they had, what they're trying to improve on. The email includes pictures and reflections from every student and their time at the barn, so that everyone on their learning team and all the people in their life can reinforce the objective socially that we're trying to achieve. The entire team helps the students and everybody's on the same page. The students realize that this behavior might start to work, and it's repeated over and over and over again. After class, we invoice the school board, and then they book their next group. This kind of summarizes how the day-to-day tasks compound into change for a student. Now I want to tell you about why. The second part of my remarks I want to share with you today are the 3 key beliefs that drive every aspect of equine empowerment. My education and experience with horses has been shaped by 3 values, and they're the driving force behind why I teach this specific demographic of kids. First of all, I think that as a society, we know the children who are going to need us the most. There are reams of research on early intervention, all of which I will share with you. And my time in a traditional classroom outlined to me that as a learning community, we know who these kids are. Ask any teacher in a grade 4 classroom or any adult in the school in Drayton Valley today who's going to have a hard time in grade 12, and they're going to give you the same list. I think it is our responsibility as a community to support these kids as soon as we can, because that's when the early intervention makes a difference. Secondly, I believe that communication and emotional regulation is modeled. It's not a gift. It's not something that you're born with. It's not something only special people have. I think it's a tool like anything else. It's just like math. If you want to be good at math, practice. If you want to be good at social and emotional skills, practice. And lastly, I believe that it takes a village. And within that village, one person and interaction can totally change your trajectory. I think that the issues facing young people are as individual as they are. I don't think across the board it's bad parents or cell phones or exhausted school systems. I think everyone's doing the best they can with what they've got. As parents, if you can't feed your kids and pay your power bill, you're not practicing emotional regulation with them every evening. As school systems that are understaffed and overworked, you're not always able to address those extra programs when covering basics is a simple priority. That's why I believe a positive influence can happen in a really unlikely place. So every day when we go to the barn, we try to catch them early. We model and use communication as nothing more than a skill. And we remember that everyone's trying their best, and today could change everything. Now, I do know we can't save every kid. I'm not naive. But I do think we can try. So to conclude, the thing that makes equine empowerment unique is not that we're an equine-assisted learning facility. Those exist internationally. Many equine programs just like them help and work with urban schools all over the world. The thing that makes equine empowerment unique is that it's in Brazeau County. The rarity is that a small rural community could have a program like this available to support their at-risk youth. And as Councillor Wilsley previously stated in her remarks, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And certainly with equine-assisted learning, that's a case that can be made to hold true. I think that's everything I have, but I'm certainly, if I wasn't clear on anything or you have any questions, I'm certainly willing to answer anything.
Time saves 9.
That's right, that's right. There's a lot of those old sayings, there's a lot.
Great presentation. You know, I think we've all got stories. You know, as a young kid, we used to take our horses out at 5 in the morning and ride them down to the Easy Ford Park and swim the horses in the river.
Yeah.
And I was trying to escape from the farm, but would always have to come back. But yeah, we used to ride horses quite a bit
Yeah.
growing. And they do have a mind of their own.
They really do. Yeah,
Um,
they really do. They're a great mirror.
Yeah, the one I had would always put her head down and turn at a sharp angle when she was done listening to you. Anthony, I think you had your light on before I got off on my little.
With the course, then, how frequent are the students there at the school, or at your facility?
So they book for once a week for 8 weeks, typically. That would be the standard amount. As I said, some schools with students who are really thriving or progressing a lot, they'll continue. Like I said, this afternoon I have outreach, and it'll be their 14th week with a group of young girls. So it really depends on the needs specifically of those students. And the number of students in those groups depends as well. Like when Alder Flats comes, they bring 9 because they're paying for busing, and we want to have a full truck, right? Or full bus. So it really depends on the school and their needs. And two, really specific to the needs of that group of students, right? Just a random example, a group of girls that are really struggling to get along, all feeling very self-conscious. You know that old, I've never met a confident bully, you know that thing? So bringing the group of them together to work on those skills, the schools, that's really up to them. They just give me their names and what we're going to work on. Yeah.
I like that saying. I've never seen a confident bully.
Yes.
Because they know they're doing something wrong.
That's right.
So
It's really
they're-
true. Yeah. A bully is just a kid who needs more help.
It's a reflection.
I'll go
of
to
themselves.
Kara.
Generally with a bully, it's a reflection of themselves.
Okay, just
That's right.
Kara, and
That's right.
then Kara. I mean Donna, then Kara.
Okay.
You guys got me flustered.
So with all this, my ask is if we are getting people from Wetaskiwin County, Alder Flats, and I forget what the other one, but they're coming here, paying for busing, paying for classes, I feel that we should pay for at least one set of children from HW Pickup, Frank Maddock, and Outreach Center. I just think it's not a lot of money. It's like, for all 3 of those, it would turn out to be $12,480. And if we partnered with Drayton Valley, it would be like $6,000. And I said, like, we could do a bigger amount and just say, this is for busing or whatever you need. Like, it doesn't have to be for the actual classes.
Yeah, it'd be hard being put into a situation where you're picking and choosing who you're gonna support and who you're not gonna support. So it might be easier to do something else. Whoever it is, as soon as you're down to a process where you're picking, you're saying, I'm gonna pick this person rather than this person. So if you wanna have something more general, that helps everybody
Yeah,
the same.
yeah.
Anthony?
Do you know if there's another facility similar to yours or to the one you're speaking of in Brazeau County?
No, not that I know of. There is a lot in urban centers. Strathmore, Edmonton, Calgary, they would be some of the closest. There's many different branches. There's equine assisted learning, there's equine therapy, there's equine counseling, there's a gala, there's numerous branches. Equine assisted learning is really specific to behavioral change. I'm part of a governing body of equine assisted learning schools, and nobody's registered in this area, I guess. There was a gentleman north of Evansburg who was trying to start one, and he was coming in, advising, like overseeing classes or whatever. We were trying to help him get started, but I don't know if he ever did.
Because, and I don't know if Dallas knows or is aware or not, but it appears that there's also a school bus periodically showing up at one of the places over at, in your division. And they have, it appears that they have horses and they also do some training, whether it's similar in nature of what you're doing.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Or whether
Not
it's
that I
just
know of.
riding
Not that I know
horses,
of.
I don't know, but I've seen that in your division there.
I think really to be super blunt, the opportunity, like this is operating here and, we're doing great. We're busy, we've got people from other counties coming. Really the opportunity, I think, for council, and this can be discussed when I'm not here, because I don't want to be, I'm not asking for money or anything like that. But I want to be really clear that what's happening in Wetaskiwin is they're accessing a resource that's in your backyard. So they're busing kids over an hour to come and use this resource. They're noticing a difference. They've done it for 2 years. They're doing it for an additional 3 so far. And it's just an opportunity for you to, you know, they publicize it like crazy. It's in their newsletter. It's in, you know, all of their stuff for them as a county. They're using it as a tool, right? So they're writing the check and they're taking the credit, and that's fine. That happens, that's the job, right? I'm just saying it might be an opportunity for you, and if it's not, it's totally okay. We are deeply proud to be this business running in Brazeau County, and we certainly will continue to do so. When Councillor Wiltsey and I just talked, it was nothing more than speaking to you about letting you know what it is and suggesting there's possibly something you could support for the local youth that your name would be attached to. So that's, yeah, kind of the gist of it, wasn't it? If that's not being too bold.
Glenn?
I think it's a great idea. It'd just be easier if there was a proposal, I guess, from Equine Empowerment, so we could choose option A, B, or C, and then understand where you're going with it. Like I said, you'll be the one who picks and chooses between the powerhouse school or the.
No, everybody comes.
Everybody
I'll work
comes?
as long, if
Well, how does it work then? How do you inform schools that there's this much money available?
no, the money doesn't come through me at all. It
So
is
where does
entirely
where
the
do we
school's
send the money
opportunity.
though? Then when
The
you
school,
have-
it goes to the school board
You'd
and
have
it
to
is
send it to the
allocated
school
for
board?
equine empowerment. So currently, the schools don't have it in their budget to send kids right now anyways. They're finding money. DVCF, I believe, Drayton Valley Community Foundation, has supported a lot of students to come. They look for sponsorship from oil companies. And it's my understanding that the schools are given a check from those companies and they are allocated specific for this. So whatever it is, say it's $2,000, that would be allocated to equine empowerment. As soon as the schools have a big enough pot, they bring a group. But
Is that what Wetaskiwin does? They just
No,
they just divvy
Wetaskiwin
out to all the schools, money to all the schools?
Wetaskiwin is the anomaly because they're the only ones whose county is paying for it. So in their county, they have 3 really rural schools, right? They have Alder Flats, Buck Mountain, and Winfield. And the funding of their urban center is not matching the rural communities. So what they're doing is allocating some of that funding to come to reach those outside kids that don't have access. If you live in Alder Flats, you're not accessing youth programs in Wetaskiwin in the evenings. Do you know what I mean? Or through the school. So that's how they're doing it. That's the only, Wetaskiwin is the only one who the county's paying. For everybody else, the school's finding the money.
Okay, so thank you.
Go ahead, Kara.
Just to back up to a little bit, maybe Glenn, just a little bit of an understanding, and with what's going on in our community, because if Brazeau County was to do something like this, we don't know who those students are, we don't know where to go, we're gonna be looking to the school division anyways. And they've got I do know because I've actually asked questions about this program because I firsthand witnessed a few years ago, I was in the barn and I think we spent morning there.
Yes.
Watching this happen, and dare I say, it's almost magical, it gave me goosebumps.
Well, I certainly think so.
It does. I could, you amaze me every day that you get to do this and the difference that you're making in the community. And like many on council, I grew up with horses and I understand the true power and the passion behind that. I wouldn't be where I was today if it wasn't for horses and the 4-H program. So,
True, me too.
yeah, it's that rural roots and those rural unique opportunities that are offered here that are nowhere else. That's a huge driver behind that. But yeah, my suggestion, if we were to look at something like this, is to leverage the school board because they would have the information we would need to which students need to go. So, and we do have a very good working relationship with our school division. So I wouldn't want to go out and create something new and over here. Let's work with what we've got. We know firsthand that private donations and business donations go into the school board. The money is going where it's supposed to be going, and the students that are needing help are there. The question is, we talk a lot about public school side things. Do you have any interaction with the Catholic school board?
I haven't. We've reached out numerous times. They've had a lot of changes with principal and leadership in their school. Their FCS, I believe she works for FCSS. She just finished her final practicum through Grant McEwen at the barn with us. We take a lot of students from universities to finish their final education practicums or
That I didn't know. That's
Yeah, it's very
excellent.
cool.
Shannon, we're so lucky to have
It's a
you.
doorway that's open, but they haven't reached out yet. So
Okay.
it's entirely up to, and it is different for every school. Outreach, they're only bringing 4 kids because it's a teacher driver, right? Others, yeah, it's really, I don't know how to solve that problem. That would be the opportunity,
There's
yeah.
some opportunity there
yeah.
too. So. Okay, awesome. Thanks.
So, just as, Lee's got something? Okay.
I just wanted to mention, I can work with the school division, and I'm not sure if you ever work with the SROs or family wellness.
No, from my
Yeah.
perspective, the school contacts me with whatever work was bringing the students. They say, send me an invoice, and they take it from there.
Yep.
I'm not involved with it at all. I just say, this is how much you owe, and then they cut me a check from school board.
I know, Councillor Westland, when you were saying, we can't identify the students, but family wellness works with a lot of the issues and problems, and they can identify them, but if you wish to make a motion as far as administration to work with the school division, I can work those details out, and then, possibly FCSS as far as funding and stuff.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say, is that we usually, as a process, people make a presentation, do a little research, and then if it's a funding request, then usually at the next meeting, we bring a proposal. But I think even, I'm not sure who said it, but it'd be nice to have the request coming, because we're just throwing money into the sky, not knowing where it's going. If we knew what the money would actually be used for, and how much you require, then we can respond to a request.
Okay, well, that could be something, the school contacts that I have, FCSS workers, family wellness workers, are the people who are the ones booking the kids. So I could put that out there to them to then reach out to you. Yes. Yeah.
Tina's already read her mind. If you take a look on the board, she just typed that up.
Anything else? Any other questions I can answer?
Don't be so happy. Anthony?
And I think I would like to see any monies that we direct, that both school boards have, like Catholic and the other one, have
Absolutely.
equally opportunities if their students are,
Absolutely.
likewise
Yep.
inclined.
Yep, absolutely. No, and I think that's important, because I think there's a lot of schools that, that's saying you don't renovate the kitchen when the house is on fire. You know what I mean? As if we're staying in the theme of old sayings. There's lots of schools that don't have the staff to bring students, or they don't have that, that person that can leave for that period of time. So even in doing this, yeah, there maybe would be 1 or 2 schools that wouldn't even be able to do it, right? So that would be something we'd have to navigate as we go.
Did Lee leave? Oh, no, there he is, okay. I can only see your eyes over the thing about like this when you're looking at us, Lee. Dallas?
Thank you, Reeve. Yeah, I would ask you, have you reached out to the ag societies or ELKs?
No.
They raise money for stuff like this.
Yes, no, but I'm not the one looking for the money. Do you know what I mean? I get it. Like, it's the school's role. I've got everything I've got to put in the game. It's up to the schools to find that. I've built the facility, I've got the horses, I've furthered my education, I have my degrees, all of those things. I have enough skin in the game. It's now their job to find the money. Yeah.
Donna?
So I guess I jumped ahead of things. Yeah, but
It's your
I
concussion.
was just so excited. And when they talk about, what do you learn at RMA? Why do you even go to RMA? Well, I wouldn't have learned that when Taskman County bused their kids to Brazeau County unless we were at RMA visiting with people. So, yeah, I'm just so excited, but I guess we will, can I make a motion?
Well, you take a look at what's up there on the board there right now.
March 6th. Okay. I would like to move that we direct administration to look into developing a grant program for equine empowerment for youth in conjunction with all local school boards, and add to the agenda with the joint boards on March 6, 2025. So that's before the final budget, right?
Great.
Okay.
Discussion? Discussion, Dallas?
Yeah, so this is challenging for me. I stay in a little bit out of our lane. The school boards have their own metrics. And municipal taxes for municipal services, I can't get out of that lane. Not like this, at least.
Yeah, it's a struggle because we were all told to stay in our lane, as Dallas has said, so have to think about that, how we can fit it into the program.
Yep.
You know, caring for the students, for social services, it blurs the lines. But we're trying to find a way around it. We can put the motion on the floor and then have the follow-up support if that's what need be. But yeah, no, I mean like in March, right? That's what I'm trying to say.
We're not doing anything, we're just looking into it. It's a great motion. Donna wrote a great letter. She's got me convinced this is a good idea. We should get to vote on this. We should be able to vote on this.
Yeah, I wasn't saying you can't vote on it. No, you can stay here. We do things up front. We try to be, we try to be transparent here. All right, so the motion is on the floor. Dallas, more discussion?
Yeah, no, I think it's a great motion. I think what you're doing is fabulous. I've spent my entire life raising and training horses. I'm a cowboy. That's what I do.
I've got some colts for sale. No,
Yeah, we're a century farm, so we've been doing this for a
That's
long time.
wonderful.
My dad's 83, and he's training 2 colts right now. So I know the value,
Yeah.
no question. But it's too far out of our lane. The motion is too far directed out of our lane. God, I'd like to be something else. But
Well, once we look at it, we'll see.
Sure.
Come March, there may be more supporting evidence or documents to help twist your arm. And we'll also know what sort of, amount is required. All right, any other discussion? Cody?
Yeah, I was just gonna, so through the chair to Councillor Ekstrom, I was just wondering, if you were to change the motion, what would you change it to?
Well, through the chair to Councillor Brooks, I would just, you know what, I would just add this to the agenda with our next meeting with school boards and see what their ask is. I would go in that direction first.
Because there isn't a specific ask right now, right?
Look into a grant program. No, I can't do a grant program. No, I don't want to go into a grant program.
Think about it in agriculture. Horses or agriculture? Anthony, then Donna.
I agree with what Dallas just said. Dallas said about talking with the school boards first and letting them come with something. This motion where it says to develop a grant program is really taking a pretty good step forward without even consulting the school boards, without consulting them. I think the real, as I hear your presentation, participants are the school boards.
That's
or
right.
schools.
They're the ones asking.
So
Yep.
we should be involving them to be the directing or leading, rather than us with this motion. It's putting the cart before the horse. So I agree with Dallas's point there that the motion should be perhaps rescinded or withdrawn, and one that would suggest to put it on the agenda with our joint school boards and the town of Drayton Valley, I think would be far better serving the purpose and serving your cause.
For sure.
Dallas? Then Donna?
Yeah, so if we go to the school boards, and we're all pretty familiar with the people there, if we ask them, would you like our help in assisting you with this? Of course, the answer would be yes. So it just comes back to, okay, I'm gonna be a Grinch for Christmas. Municipal taxes for municipal services has to be a greater benefit.
Well, I have a little bit more to add. So this morning, we just gave what was sweaters to whatever it was, right? Like, to me, this is a proud county thing to do for our community. Of course, the school board's gonna want more money for students, right? Like, we do it for the nurses program, and we're proud to do that. It's benefiting our citizens in our community. So I don't want to, I want this to be a gift. I mean, if the only way we're gonna get money is to go to the school board, then yes. But I think we can just do a yearly grant. We do it for other things.
I just want to be clear, because I do agree and hear what you're saying. My understanding was my role here today was to outline something that's operating in your county and how that business is running, what we're doing it, and why we're doing it. The ask is not coming from me. The ask is coming from the school boards who are underfunded. But I get that that's a really gray area because they are funded. So that's kind of, I just want to be, I'm not asking for the money.
No,
This is
you
for the
aren't.
schools and the kids to be able to access a program that's operating in your county.
Yeah.
That's the only clarification. So I do understand completely what you're saying. And I get if it's tricky, but that would be for you to figure out. Do you get what I'm saying?
It's a gray area, there's no doubt about it, and we do try to stay in our lane. But I think this one's one of those gray areas where it could be perceived that it's doing good for our agricultural community as well. But I think it's just a little premature to just go spend money. Developing a grant program, who knows what that'll look like, right? It could be a partnership with the school boards, it could be partnership with other counties. It's just that traditionally we don't jump to spend money on an initial presentation. We usually have a little bit of time for administration to look at it and look at the different options and do that at that time. So I don't know if it has to wait that long, March 6th, or you could say prior to March 6th. But then we still have to vote on it because there's some questioning how gray this is, so.
Does Dallas have like a different? Yeah.
No, I don't. I would just move to add it to the agenda of the next school board meeting.
Okay.
Anthony?
That's where I'm going. I think we should be having a conversation since it involves potentially one of the options that Donna had on her sheet was involving a partnership with the town. It also involves the need for the school boards to be participants, at least whatever term you want to call it. I call it participants. And so I think it would be far better off if we had that conversation in a joint meeting with those three entities. And at that point in time, once we had that conversation with the town, with the school boards, and with ourselves, then have a motion, something like this. This motion is premature at this time.
Donna?
With that, I will rescind my motion.
Okay. That doesn't stop Lee.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, you rescinding your motion, okay, thank you. That doesn't stop our administration from doing some research on possible options and having some pre-discussions to see if the school boards are at all interested in meeting about this and get that kind of work being done in the background and then bring it forward to the next meeting that they can have their research completed by. All right.
Okay,
so
well, thank you. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Use it.
Oh, not done.
Go ahead, Dallas.
Thank you. I really do appreciate your time.
Take
Okay.
take the rest of the day off.
I'm going farm right now.
All right, well, I'll just move to add this subject, equine empowerment, to the next school board meeting that we have. And include the town, yeah. Town right now. That's the March 6th date? Okay, please add it to the agenda for that date. If that motion is clear as mud.
Okay, you two, can you guys share your stories? Okay,
It was still, it was to look. That was all they were doing, is to look for it in conjunction with all local school boards and add to the agenda that we're having on March 6th. That's the exact thing we were talking about. I'm so confused the way you guys are doing things, but
Well, we never took that equine course. See, had we done that, we'd be a lot smarter at our job here. Donna?
Oh my goodness, what was I gonna say? Yeah, I mean, it would be nice when we meet with the school board to have something to present to them, or have, like, just looking into something before we are at that.
That's why I say
meeting.
administration can still do some background work, but it's not us applying for the grant. It's the school board asking us to see if we'd support, you know, something to do with the education system utilizing horses. Dallas?
Okay. Yeah, so, yeah, the motion to me was quite specific, and it was difficult for me to support that. Nevertheless, ag societies have hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they are looking for stuff just like this. That'd be a perfect place for this to land. I think our role here is to advocate and promote, but I would tap the brakes after that. So anyway, yeah, I got that motion on the floor.
And what was that motion? Oh, okay. Discussion? All those in favor? Okay, unanimous support. It's 11 o'clock here, sorry. We had that interesting discussion, but it's public input time right now, and it's for anybody in the public that wants to provide some ideas or suggestions, and I always ask that if they've got an idea, is what their solution would be to fix the problem, if that's what it is. So the floor is open. You can direct your questions through me and be respectful of staff and the elected officials. The floor is open from anybody. Have we got anybody online today, Peter? Where is that at? Council, RB, I don't know what that is. Anybody from the public that's online? Nobody in the gallery. I'll ask a final time here. Anybody from the public that's online that has any ideas or suggestions for us? Seeing none, we'll move forward with more council business. All right. Are we on Range Road 63 now?
Yeah. Yeah, so on page 82, for about Range Road 63 partnership options. During the budget meeting of November 21st, a motion was made to direct administration to further communicate with Pembina Pipeline to pursue funding for option 1, which was the pavement on Range Road 63 south of Highway 39, with a goal to complete the project in 2025 or 2026. So I did exchange emails with staff from Pembina Pipeline on November 26th and received the following response. Discussions for the proposed costs have been deferred to 2025. At that time, Pembina will submit the proposed costs sent in previously in October of 2024 from us for the 2026 budget approval. So currently, they are not able to commit anything for 2025. They're still committed with continue on with the current annual maintenance fee of $30,000 that is in place. So I will stay in contact with Pembina Pipeline and bring any updates for discussion of the 2026 budget deliberations, and I do have that diarized to follow up with them before that budget.
All righty, Anthony.
And what was the amount that you were asking them to partner in?
It was very similar. So it was just under $30,000 a year for 20 years. And so
Okay.
that's the portion where they didn't approve part of that budget. They need to commit that going forward for 20 years, where right now we're just doing a year-to-year contract.
But
Yeah,
it's a 600,000 or so.
Yeah, I think it
investment.
was 591, if I'm going off the top of my head, was the total. So they had the option of doing that lump sum or to continue paying that monthly amount for 20 years.
Okay, and they were not able to commit at this time to even do that 30,000 for 20 years?
That's right. So they are committed to doing that amount, but not signing for 20 years at this time. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so a motion then to receive this for information, I would assume. Glenn?
I move to accept the Range Road 63 Partnership Report for information.
Discussion, all those in favor? There, we stayed in the lane there now, didn't we, Dallas?
Thank you.
Thank you. No planning, no fire, no agriculture, no community. What the hell's going on here? General matters, Violet Grove walking trails, Donna Wilsey. Oh, you did, okay, thanks. RMA report, Glenn has his in there. Lots of pictures, smiling teeth. All right, so a motion to receive the RMA report from Glenn Gunderson for information. Cody?
Oh, you want me to do it? Okay. I move to receive the RMA report by Glenn Gunderson for information.
Discussion, all those in favor? Was that really the guy that they said? I didn't think so. That old guy? Yeah? What'd they say? His name was Van Dam? Yeah. I didn't think it looked like him. Chuck Norris, yeah. Yeah, that's what I meant. All right. A joint letter with the town of Drayton Valley, draft regulations to cap greenhouse gas emissions, 93 to 94. Anthony?
I think when looking at page 94, I think we should be adding Gerald Soroka's name because he is our MP for this particular issue. And I think it wouldn't hurt to send it as well to Pierre Poilievre, the leader of the opposition, because from my point of view, I think, how do I say this diplomatically? I think it's going to be a challenge to get some of this stuff changed, and I think we can use any support with it that we can get. And I think those two individuals provide the opportunity for support in helping changes. So I would ask that we add Gerald Soroka on there, on the CC portion,
Okay.
as well as opposition Pierre Poilievre, leader Pierre Poilievre.
Okay. Nobody's got a problem with that, Glenn?
No, just a motion. I move the council authorize the Reeve to sign the joint letter from both the town of Drayton Valley and Brazeau County addressed to the Prime Minister of Canada regarding draft regulations to cap greenhouse gas emissions in the oil and gas industry, with the addition of Gerald Soroka, MP, and Pierre Poilievre, official leader of the opposition.
Discussion, all those in favor? Carried unanimous. Okay, alternate for EPBR, Cody Brooks.
So there's nothing in the agenda other than the line item, but I was at our EPBR meeting on whatever day it was, not that long ago this month. I think it was the 17th. But anyway, the town has an alternate just in case their member can't make it to the meeting, and we don't. And so there was have a slight scheduling conflict with our next meeting, which is going to be in a few months yet. So anyway, I was wondering if we wanted to appoint an alternate to the board so that if I can't make our next meeting, that we have somebody there representing us.
Anthony?
Yeah, I think we never had one before because I guess some of the times the individuals that were there, we always made it one way or another. Like a lot of times I was there online. So I don't know, Cody, is that an option for you with your conflict?
I can't. It's not that I'm just not in the area. It's like I'm doing something else. I won't be able to make it to this one. It's just the next meeting for me, but they meet like 4 times a year, something like that. So
Anybody
Yeah, I
want to
believe
be the?
alternates can vote at that meeting, at least the way I understand it. If like if Cody isn't there, the alternate could vote.
Yeah.
Kara and Dallas?
Generally, as long as the alternate's been appointed by council,
Yeah,
that's generally.
I would be,
Yeah.
oh, go ahead.
Dallas?
I think it's a great idea. Yeah, I'd love to be on the board. I spend so much time in, down on the river in Eagle Point's Blue Rapids, more than any of you guys, so I should be there.
All right, somebody want to appoint Dallas as the alternate? Donna?
I move to appoint Dallas as the alternate for the E EPBR.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Definitely.
Carried. Um, It's just an appointment. Bylaw policy for landlocked parcels, Cody Brooks.
Here I am again. Yeah, so, it's kind of, we've talked about it a little bit, in years, past. And I looked into it a little bit, and we don't have any policy, or there's nothing in the land use bylaw, restricting the creation of a landlocked parcel. So, my concern is that we have, there's a quarter section that, maybe it has access, somebody subdivides off the back side of it, and there's actually no road to it. Somebody buys that, and then they come to council looking for a road. A road for one person. So I was just wondering if council had an appetite to pursue a bylaw or a policy. I think it's a land use bylaw amendment, but a bylaw or a policy to just restrict the creation of new landlocked parcels.
Well, I think landlocked parcels are just, they are what they are.
Yeah, they do currently exist, but you can make new ones. But if you have oh man, I wish I had a little map in front of me that I
No,
could just write on.
I can follow you.
Yeah, so you can subdivide a parcel off of something that otherwise has access. You can subdivide off a parcel, and that parcel can be landlocked because you don't have access through the whole quarter section. You just have access to the quarter section or something like that. So that's what I'm looking at. Maybe having something restricting the creation of. We do have a policy. I believe Planning and Development has one for permitting. So if you want to get a permit, you need access or something like that. I can't quite remember exactly what it was, but I was just thinking we should do something like this at the subdivision stage. It would be better to get it there than have to deal with people's requests after something's been created.
All parcels were landlocked at one point. All parcels. Every one of us live on a previous landlocked parcel until the roads were built near us or around us. Anthony?
If a parcel is subdivided, like, say, 1, 2, 3, or whatever, and here's the road, there's usually, at least what we've been doing at MPC, at least over the years, and not just this last time I'm on, but over the years, we've taken a panhandle to provide access that in the future the road could be built along that caveated area. I guess there's a caveat there. Having said that, we've done some quarters like that, or some subdivisions like that, and due to mistakes in administrative registering of that caveat, the caveats weren't there, and then we ended up having what Cody's describing as parcels that were created and now would end up being without having access. So that's what we need to make sure when we're doing our planning and development issues or developments, that we need to make sure that those caveats are there to provide access for a future road and that they are properly registered. Then we won't get into that landlocked parcel situation. And if you're dividing a quarter into half, in the past, I know I have one division in one quarter or parcel in my division, where it was done way back in the 50s, and they just cut it down whichever way they decided to cut it down. And neither parcel really had access to, one parcel, I mean, only had access to the developed road allowance. The other parcel has access to what really amounts to an undeveloped road allowance, because of Big Creek. So that's where some of the history that you're speaking of, like 50 years ago or longer, is still around for us to deal with. But I don't think we need any more mechanisms. I think we just need to make sure that the tools we have, like when we create new subdivisions, are being implemented.
That puts a lot of onus on the chairman of the MPC to go back and check before he signs off on the minutes of MPC to see, did what was said or requested, did it get done?
No, but Mark, when we sign off on the minutes, as I understand it, as chairman, I'm signing off in this case, if I'm, acting, when I'm the chairman, I'm signing off on the minutes being complete as based on what we approved at those previous meeting. Staff are the ones then that are responsible for seeing that all the conditions are met, not the chairman of the MPC. All he's doing is seeing that the meeting and the proper conditions were, that we had approved were addressed in the minutes. But staff does the enforcement of the conditions.
Okay, so I'm trying to think back here. I think I've done a couple with the panhandle, but at the time, when it's subdivided, that panhandle is subdivided out with the parcel, so that it's just one piece of land, and it has to go back to a road allowance. You're saying sometimes that panhandle isn't registered.
Okay, what happened, Barton, I'll give you the example of what I'm talking about, and it's not just the only one. But in the one that I can describe for you, the person was using the neighbor's lease road for accessing their two parcels they created. So they really didn't need, as long as they were friendly with their neighbor, they didn't need to develop as a driveway or this panhandle approach, because the neighbor was giving them their access. But as soon as the neighbor and them don't agree, now they're landlocked. Now they're caught. That's why there was this caveated portion of land, about 20 meters wide, across the front of that one parcel over to the road allowance, that was supposed to have been registered to provide a new driveway to be built in the future should this old one or neighbor one no longer be available. And that was just a caveat to be registered on title. That is done by staff or administered through staff. So that's where we have to make sure that end is being carried out.
My very first subdivision is exactly what you said, except that the caveat for the panhandle was carved out with the subdivision, so that it didn't matter about the lease road. The lease road was just convenient access, but had they got into a battle, there still was a panhandle that was already subdivided out that could be built to give them access.
That would have been the best way to do it. It's the cleanest way to do it.
Right. That's me, Mr. Clean.
Nope.
Okay. All right, anybody else got any comments? Okay.
Yeah, I would prefer to leave it as it is, through the chair. I would prefer to approach this situation on a case-by-case basis. I think that's, at this time, in my opinion, the most appropriate way to do that. It does get a little bit convoluted, but that's okay. That's our job. We can use, there's so many case studies that we could use in this municipality that are all over the page, from one extreme to the next, whether it's a forest road on private property or whether it's a statutory right-of-way, and stuff happened. It's hard. Moving forward, though, is what we're looking at, and that's where you're forward thinking. So, I prefer to approach it case-by-case basis. And when it comes to statutory right-of-ways, you know where I land on this. And I'm a full believer that municipalities have the responsibility to develop statutory right-of-ways. That's why they're there. That's why they were put there many, many years ago. Now, oil fields can develop statutory right-of-ways with our permission, and they can make a very minimal road, and it serves their heavy traffic for drilling performance, service rigs, and maintenance traffic. It services them very well, and it's a very, very small road. So if the application is correct, and it's residential only, we can build a very, very cheap road. I mean, very cheap. Just like the oil field does, and it's all it's doing is servicing light traffic. In my opinion, that is no problem for us to do, or at least give consideration to that. I'm all about roads, all roads lead to Rome, you know what I believe. And I think that we're not done building roads, you guys.
Yeah, we are a young municipality, and that's why we're quite needy, and, but yeah, our business is to build roads. 75% of our budgets are to do with roads in one way or another, build or pave or surface or whatever, but that's what we're trying to do, and that's called economic development. The more roads we build, more people will move out, the more, investments we have into our community to support the restaurants, the home hardwares, all the people that supply the materials to upgrade people's homes. We've got, I'll go to Glenn. I'll leave Cody off because he had his motion there. Glenn, you go first, and then Don.
Don't think Cody has a motion, or you're going to bring, yeah, I'm in support of doing a bylaw or a policy. Like I said, I walked into this not really understanding just how many people are landlocked in my division. I got Range Road 82 and Township Road 494, like six people, plus, yeah, probably 7 or 8. And so, yeah, it'd be nice to have something to prevent that, because it's quite a headache to deal with this after the fact.
So you want to prevent the development of?
Not prevent, but just have something in place so that there's something for these people, because like I said, the people along 82 there, they've built and they've used that lease road, but as things change, right, as farms, as the landowner changes, the last one isn't going to be as gracious as the one before, and then all of a sudden they are going to have no access to the property, right, if they got to drive through another person's property to get to theirs. So yeah, and then it's very complicated to get a road. Just to get it on the list is something, and then I still got to try to push to get these roads built, and it could take years to do that. So a policy or a bylaw ahead of time would sure clean this up. And like I said, I got this mess dropped on my lap, and I've lost quite a bit of hair over it, so I don't know if I can do too many more.
You still got a good head of hair. You're good, Glenn. But it's how the policy is either going to be directed to build roads to these landlocked policies or stop building them, and then you got to think about the bigger picture. Are we here for economic development? Are we here trying to increase our population base? Are we here to include or increase our business base? Because once you build a road, people move on it. Donna?
I don't know, I think it was Dallas that said, no, Anthony said case to case. Whoever said it case to case, that's who I'm with, because being on MPC is very, I don't even know the word, but you want gray hair and it falling out, like MPC, that was the board that made me lose sleep at night. But if you made a motion or a policy not to do landlocked parcels, holy, we would have a lot of landlocked parcels that wouldn't get built on, or they would be useless to everybody. So I definitely am not for that one.
Cody?
So just kind of to the point, there is something restricting the permitting. So like, you want to develop on a landlocked parcel, there's something restricting you. but there's no restriction on creating a landlocked parcel. So with that, I move to direct administration to develop a policy or bylaw for council's review restricting the creation of landlocked parcels.
Donna and Dallas?
Okay, I misunderstood you. Okay, so restricting making bylaw, or,
Creating a
Land-
landlocked parcel.
yeah, restricting that. Okay, that's a totally different thing than what I thought you were saying, but I still like the case to case.
Well, administration should bring what you direct them to bring. Yeah, otherwise, they're having to second guess what they think we want. You gotta give them clear direction. Dallas?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm staying in the same lane. I think, I'll just give you my personal opinion. And why would we prevent people from speculating? Why would we prevent anybody from growth? Why would we prevent anything? I mean, what's wrong with subdividing a parcel that is landlocked? What's wrong with that? Knowing full well that you don't have access to it, but one day they may expand this highway right here, and one day you could have access to that property. You may have to sit on it for a long time, but that's called speculation. And I wouldn't prevent people from having that opportunity. I simply wouldn't get in the way of that. Development is a different question. We might land in the same place, I'm not sure, but to
We've
me,
got some
that's-
examples that you can look at. So there was a fellow by Mr. Watson, right, who doesn't have legal access. Yet we did work and gravel and did things to make it easier for him, but none of it's on, or the entire road isn't on a
Staff right.
on a right of way. It's just a lease road. And we allowed and we supported that. Louise, my neighbor, has been living there for 40 years, and she doesn't have legal access either, but she was given a permit to actually develop. There's many situations like this. Heidi created a road. It was her project to build a road to what some people would call a road to nowhere. It went to no buildings, no houses, no nothing, just gave access to 3 landlocked quarters. I'm not saying these are bad things. These are good things. And so there's an example of building one road for 3 landlocked parcels, right? We spent $300,000, but it gave access, right? And so you're gonna find that, like, giving access to people isn't a bad thing. There was a person, a young lady in your area, Anthony, we took over a lease road to give her access, right? So we took over, I think we bought the lease road.
Down there by off of 35.
Yeah, right on the east side of the county.
Yeah, it's on Dallas's area.
Oh, that's in Dallas's area? Yeah, and so we found a way to give them legal access. Jim Coombs will tell you a river, if it goes by your place, that's considered legal access.
It is.
You can get to there with a canoe.
Yep.
And so if you can get to some place with a canoe, we should try to at least build minimum standards roads until we get more people that are developed in an area. It's a big debate and a can of worms that you've opened up, and there's lots of pros and cons on both sides of the argument, but restricting development, I'm not for that. I'm here to try to increase development. You can take a look at me and my case history. I've created about 35 parcels in my lifetime. Each one of those is gonna invest over a period of time $1 million. So that's $35 million of investment that I've created myself into this county. So, the average house now is $500,000 to build. By the time you build your garage, you're fill in the holes that are wet, the gravel, fencing off your acreage, the landscaping, and you'll spend close to $1 million. So 35 parcels, that's $35 million of investment into the county.
The motion was to direct administration to develop a policy or bylaw for council's review restricting the creation of landlocked parcels.
Any other discussion? Those in favor? Those opposed? 3, so that's carried. All right. Oh, it's still not even noon yet. We're doing good. Alberta Drilling Accelerator announcement. Glenn Gunderson's report. It was quite an educational event there, actually. I found the discussions with the guys there pretty good. And they still haven't picked the actual site. They've hinted that, you know, that they're looking at some areas, but they were pretty clear that Leduc wasn't necessarily picked. I still think that as part of WEC, we should be sending, you know, the positives to let them know that these are the positives about Brazeau and why you may want to still consider Brazeau County. And send them a map of the development that's already happened. Oh, there we are, all those smiling faces there. Look at that. That's a great picture. Yeah. Anyway, I think we need to constantly keep working to try to promote economic development. If we don't get picked this time, maybe next time, or maybe a sub-satellite. But we want to keep showing them that we're interested in their business, and we'd like to have that drilling accelerated here. Anthony?
Yeah, from what I had heard when I listened to it all on YouTube, I think the Premier, if I remember correctly, spoke about various points of where this location might be eventually, you know, points that were critical in the airport and various points like that. And there was about 4 of them that right now I'm not listing them all in my mind, but she hit on between her and that speaker from Evo, I believe. They were hitting on these points. I think when we write, I would agree we should write a letter and promote our area, but also make sure we address all 4 of those points so that we are
Site selecting points.
showing, first of all those points are able to be met in Brazeau County. Second of all, Bart, I think it would be good somehow, and maybe this is where we need to use some of the careful consideration when we write the letter, is we've been the leader in terms of being aware of Ever's endeavors, and also that we've been doing a lot of work in promoting their initiatives long before it became such a prime topic for the province and other municipalities. So I think all those points would help highlight why Brazeau County should be elevated. So if you're agreeable, I'd be willing to make a motion that we write a letter to the Premier and any other advisable institutions, departments like...
It isn't the province making the decision, though. It's Ever itself.
Okay, Ever, okay, and that's why I said any other.
Yeah, okay.
So that we can explain how we meet the various criteria that they've enunciated, and it also illustrate that we've been one of the leaders in bringing forward and promoting Ever, and that's my motion.
Okay. Okay, you got your light on. It's way low again.
Right. What I picked up on that announcement too is when one of the individual staffers mentioned, I think they were asking about, I think it was about the 3rd time they had asked, media had asked about location, and she'd mentioned they're halfway through consultations already with the location, so that tells me they already know where it's going, and I would like to, and I have been trying to find out who they've been meeting with through my channels, and I've turned up empty, so.
Never give up.
I agree, but yeah, I am trying to work for my channels to figure out who they've been in stakeholder consultations with, and I can't find that out yet.
Yeah, and I mentioned to Rudy, like the Ever's assistant there, Paul's assistant there, she, I had a good chat with her, and I was gonna send her a Brazeau County map with all the wells on it, because that's the future potential of abandoned wells that are sitting there that could be turned into locations forever, as long as they got a power station. They don't necessarily have to use the existing well bore, they just drill beside it. and go from there. But you've got the scar already with the bush all cleared and gravel roads and power lines and all of that. So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and I heard that as well when Kara was alluding to, and she did speak to the speaker there from the province about Indigenous and various other consultations they were doing. With that type of commentary that she made, that speaker, I think it's still very well, still allows for the consideration that Brazeau's part of it, and particularly maybe even a given piece of land we all have some thoughts about.
You know, but you just raised another issue. We should almost be working with the Ochis, you know, as a signatory to support this initiative. That might go a long ways as well. When the Indigenous folks came on board, when we were battling the Bighorn, it was kind of like it cinched the deal. So. Hi. Who made the motion? Oh, Anthony did? All right. Yeah, Anthony did make a motion to support, to support a letter going to the Premier, Ever, and others in regards to a last-ditch chance to get the drilling accelerator program here. If nothing else, like I said, there could be a satellite system later on down the road too. All right, all those in favor? Carried unanimous. Never give up. Okay, so Gretna District. You guys want to have a lunch? Yep. Let's have a lunch and we'll come back to the. Oh, okay. Okay, Breton District, FCS. Dallas?
No meeting. I hope to see one in December. No report.
Donna?
West Central Airshed, meeting was canceled. Drayton Valley District FCSS, we were at RMA, so I couldn't go. Eleanor Pickup, I banged my head and couldn't go. RMA Wildfire, no meeting. Devian District Community Learning, banged my head, couldn't go. Early development, or early childhood development, we were in budget, so missed everything.
You lucky.
All right. Boy, that was a lot. Brazeau Foundation, Cody.
Yeah,
You got the next
so,
three.
yeah, my reports are attached. A couple of things I hadn't noted in the report was the town, so if you'd read my previous reports, the foundation had submitted their development permit application to the town to expand the building. It's not necessarily that it's gonna go ahead right away, just seeing what they'll approve. And so they did approve the expansion with some conditions, a couple of weird ones. One of them was that 5% of the proposed lot had to be set aside for recreation purposes, which we do meet. It was just a weird condition. But other than that, AHS had completed an inspection on the lodge on October 30th, which is in the report, but they, how do I put this? They were outside of their wheelhouse a little bit. They started, they went and inspected people's rooms, which is none of their business, but they were, and throughout the facility, which they're entitled to do, they're inspecting, making sure there's no chemicals laying around that somebody could get a hold of and stuff like that. And I had actually mentioned in our meeting, I was like, so if a senior has a chemical in their, they have bleach on their countertop because they use bleach in their room, like, what are they gonna do? Tell them they can't have that? Like, it's their own private stuff. So I wasn't, it was a little bit weird, but beyond that, everything's in the report. And Recreation Board, only thing there is we haven't had a meeting. I've tried to get a hold of our hands from the town, and I have been unsuccessful thus far. But I guess I'll keep trying.
All right. Yellowhead Regional, Glenn, you got a couple there?
Yeah, so the Yellowhead Regional, I drove up to Spruce Grove because I'd never been there to the building, and it was their organizational meeting. The same chair people, the same executive team are on it again this year. I was nominated as a alternate for the rural side, so if there is an opening, I'll be able to go to that meeting. Otherwise, it was just mostly voting budget, and the budget-wise, they have taken a little bit out of reserves, but they've been told to by the previous administration to do that, or previous board to do that, so they've taken, but they're all just on a fine line of a balanced budget. There was a little presentation from the public library board, and yeah, the meeting was quick. It was 2 hours. I'm glad I went. I got to meet the people. Kathy Royakers is the person that handles the municipal side, so she was elected for that position. For the Drayton Valley Municipal Library report, there was a meeting earlier, but that's in another report, but this is an old one from October 17th. And yeah, we were trying to do the washroom, just put a doorway in so we had access to it, but it just isn't gonna work. The town would have to completely get the entire building up to code if we do anything with it. They've thought about maybe installing some blue lights, and it would help to discourage drug use. And you can get a smart sensor that would detect motion or length of time someone's in the washroom, open door, close contact. What the library board at our last meeting has decided to do is hire private security, starting in December and going for about 7 months. It's gonna run about $1,500 a month, and it's just gonna take care of those spots where the town office is closed. And they, as soon as they're closed, they leave us out of the bathrooms, so we can't use them. If we have a security guard there, then we'll have access to those washrooms, and it'll fix that, plus it'll help with the security issues at the library. It's expensive, but like I said, it's to accommodate those few people. You know, it's maybe a dozen people that are causing issues. It costs money, but it's.
You know, just on a side note there, Glenn, some of the banks I deal with are having an issue inside their foyers. People are going to the bathroom, getting them sleeping in there, you know, making a mess basically, you know, where you can go in after hours and go to your ATM, so, it is an issue. Pardon me? Go ahead, Kara.
The banks in this community are closing access to the ATM machines too as well.
Yeah, that's what I was hearing, is
Yep.
that they're locking them out now, so.
It's not what you're hearing, it is true. You can't access bank machines in the evening at, I
Yeah.
believe RBC, and I'm not sure which other banks, but I know RBC for a fact, because I tried to go there one night and I couldn't get money.
Yeah, that's inconvenient. All right, next there, Anthony, I think.
Okay, with the Ag Service Board, first of all, I had a meeting a town hall meeting where John Conrad, the Assistant Deputy Minister, although he wasn't there, Marcia took his place, and she spoke about the ASB grant program renewal, wild boars, the egg plastics, rural vet shortages, and Bill C-293. On the wild boar situation, they said they have 4 new trappers, and they have 464 boars that they've removed over the last while. I believe in the last couple of 5 to 3 years. I didn't get the number of years. As far as egg plastics, they've stated they've gathered 3,500 tons since 2019. And with the rural veterinary shortage, they've added another 67 million to help with trying to solve that. And Bill C-293, their suggestion was to write and advocate as much as he can to the Senate to ask them to stall it or to kill it. And some of the municipalities that were online are either mostly where they typed in, were asking for a template to help them with the guidance in terms of the letter that they might send. Anyway, we've sent a letter as the Ag Service Board on 293 opposing it, and sent it to pretty much everyone. We sent it to all senators individually, as well to the other Ag Service Boards. And I already got back one letter from one of the senator's assistants acknowledging the receipt of the letter. So that's positive, at least that I've gotten something back that quickly. And then on the Ag Service Board side of things, like I said, we wrote that letter to oppose Bill 293. We also gave out 2 bursaries for $1,000 each to 2 individuals. So I would say that was the biggest things with the Ag Service Board, unless someone else has anything they want to add. Dallas?
One more addition, Dallas?
Yeah, we're happy to welcome Liz Suter-Roselle to the Ag Fieldman temporary position in mat leave for Danya. She's more than qualified and just a real delight to have her back.
Okay, so yeah, thank you, Dallas. Okay, then if I can continue on, Bart?
Yeah.
I would go then to Municipal Planning Commission. And on the Planning Commission last meeting, we had 1 subdivision application that we approved and 1 development permit that we approved. And then going to AER, AER, Pembina Area Synergy Meeting. The AER were there and did a presentation. They gave quite a good presentation. I'm trying to get a copy of the presentation, but it was on the various minerals that they've done analysis of the wells that are being drilled in this province, and they're not only doing analysis for the point of finding out what oil and gas might be in there, but they're trying to find out what other minerals and gases like helium are also able to be located within the province. And they showed a map that highlighted where various where it showed higher abilities to find these elements in the province. So it was a good map to have. That's why I'm asking for the slide presentation. And I think it would be something that would be really good, worthwhile information perhaps for WIC to look at and to see if there's anything there that they can explore with some of the potential investors.
Yeah, there's a fellow that we're working with, Terry Brisboy, and he can actually do seismic activity on a vertical well and tell what's actually in the formation itself, and to see if it's viable to produce it, if there's enough volume. But that map, Donna, you saw that in Slave Lake, right? And it's a very good map that Anthony's talking about. It shows the potential development of the different gases that the province knows about. Then it would take more detail. So, yes.
Yeah, at the last meeting with the Premier at Leduc #1, I had time to talk to Mark Smith, and he suggested that it would be very wise for us to have some geotechnical information in our area, and I know that every well that is drilled in the area has geotechnical information that comes back from it, but it's important for us to be able to obtain that information and exploit it to the absolute
Well, especially with our map
maximum degree.
that's adopted.
Yeah.
You could find 10 or 15 different wells throughout the county and see what's there to cover the entire county, just like the seismic does. Right, so you could find, okay, there's lithium here at this height, lithium here at this height, lithium here at this height. This zone here would be a lithium area.
Yeah, the context in which we spoke was more geothermal, but we need just a little bit more information so we can promote ourselves a little bit more. This is what our geothermal is.
Yeah.
And we can go down several thousand feet and be
Yeah.
pretty spot on, so we need information.
Need gathered, collected data. Anthony?
Yeah, Bart, they also spoke that the geothermal wells that were drilled, would be potentially drilled, as well as the ones that, if they're new wells for brines and the various heliums and whatnot that might be drilled in the future for some of these elements that we're talking about. Because it just said that geothermal wells and brine wells do not fall under the orphan well situation. So they're saying they're gonna be trying to make sure they get enough monies right away to get, eventual reclamations done. But they're also telling landowners that, they better make sure they got all their bases covered, because they can't fall back on the orphan well like they can for the oil and gas. So that's something we should keep in mind, that when we're writing up agreements for a geothermal well or these brine, discoveries and mining, that we're making sure we're covering them, because we can't fall back on the orphan wells. And that's
Right.
something they made very clear to us, to make sure that we're aware of that.
Well, and that's where like Everett doesn't go down the well bore, they can go beside it. They just need power and they need a place to actually drill. The well bores, that gets too complicated because then you have reclamation of the well bore before it can be used for something else. So they usually drill their own holes and then they're in control of their own drilling activity. And they don't need a casing. They actually create their own pipeline as they go with the polymer. So as they're drilling, they use a polymer that they squish into the formation. And I think the one at down there, the first micro one, they tested it to 5,000 PSI and it held that pressure. So it's a different system. We can use the existing sites, but not the existing well bore. Are you all done? Okay, so I think it's me there. Alice, I think we had one application. Pretty happy group. The people that got reappointed were happy. Warburg Seed Cleaning, I didn't have a meeting because we were at RMA, and the Tech Innovation and Attraction, I think that's set for January 8th. Is that correct? Yes. So we'll talk about some of these things that you raised, Anthony, and other councillors. Pardon me? Oh, I did that, eh? Well, she
It's
didn't
okay.
seem to be too worried about it. She didn't.
No, I
interrupt
wasn't
me.
too worried. We haven't had a meeting, so.
You didn't have a meeting? Okay, meeting dates. ACPA. Oh, make a motion.
Reports, I move to receive the council reports for information.
Discussion. All those in favor? Carried unanimous. Okay. No, we got a closed session. All right, let's have some lunch. And we can we just take a half an hour? And we can finish off our agenda maybe before the last presentation? Okay, if we're all ready, I'll call the meeting back to order. I think we just had a few things left on the agenda. The ACPA conference, May 5th to 7th. We have to change a council meeting, is that what you want? What are your wishes there, councillors? Yeah, go ahead. Oh, Dallas. Cody.
The other Dallas. Yeah, so I was at it last year. I understand that we have a conflict. I felt like it was really good for, we could send peace officers to it. Like there was a lot of stuff there that would have been for them, and some of the stuff wasn't really for us. So maybe, I don't know, I'm not moving to direct administration to send the peace officers. Maybe opening it up, maybe, I don't know. Is that, how do we word that?
Anybody else got any thoughts? Donna?
Okay, they'll just go.
like, we can take this all in, but we don't get to use it, right? Like, in our everyday stuff.
Anthony?
For information.
All right. Anthony has moved to receive for information. Discussion. All those in favor? Carried unanimous. Emerging trends in municipal law, pages 106. What's your wishes on this one here, Glenn?
Perfect. I went to this last year with Councillor Ekstrom. This was a great event, but again, would want to, the same thing as Councillor Brooks said, this is something staff should be going to as well. Through the chair to Rudy, I think you should go at least, and I don't know if someone else, like said, some staff should be going to this. I thought that it was a great event.
It's a marketing strategy though as well by the legal firms.
Well, they went through like the new ways that lawyers are trying to sue counties. So all of the ways. So one of them was basically saying that if somebody does have a wreck, like hit a guardrail, we're protected through the MGA. To a point, if we're notified ahead of time that that guardrail has a problem with it, and then somebody has a wreck, then it's wide open. They can sue us for everything. So that's great for me to know, but at the same time, staff should know that as well. But I mean, to get a chance to talk to those lawyers was a great opportunity too. But last year was just me and Councillor Ekstrom, but I think that at least the CEO should be there as well.
Yeah, because there's a number of firms we use, right? Brownlee is just one of them. And they all do something to promote you getting a hold of them. They usually scare the hell out of you, so then you hire them to protect you.
So I move to authorize council's and the CEO's attendance to the Emerging Trends in Municipal Law, February 13th, 2025, Edmonton, Alberta.
And so we're in Fredericton? Is that correct? Okay.
Who is?
Bart, Kara, and Donna.
Okay, just didn't hear that, sorry.
So that would just leave Cody, Dallas, Glenn, and Anthony to possibly attend. So Glenn has a motion on the floor to authorize all councillors and all staff, or just the CAO? All right. Okay, all those in favor? Carried unanimous. Okay, we've got a couple of enclosed sessions. Somebody want to make a motion that we go in closed for the two items? Dallas?
So not the second item, only the first item? Okay, I'll move that Brazeau County Council go in closed for item 34A, Land Road Allowance Clearing, Barbara Foley, FOIP, Section 25.
Discussion, all those in favor? Are we not going in closed for the other one, or is it council? Huh? Oh, okay. Alrighty, well then let's go in there and get the first one done.
I want my sweater back.
There's a walking distance to the ledge. I love it.
Got into trouble at all the hotels. I was just wondering what trouble, and then I can relate it to the hotel I got in trouble at. Well, we're ready. If you guys are ready, I'm gonna call the meeting back to order. What's that? Oh, yes, sir. We just have one motion to make here, so any direction coming out of enclosed? Dallas?
All right, I move that Brazeau County Council deny the request that was reviewed and closed to direct administration to review all options with the landowner.
Discussion, all those in favor?
I'm opposed.
Carried unanimous. You're opposed?
Yeah.
Okay. Noted, Dallas was opposed, Tina?
Sorry. One more then?
Yeah, I guess we gotta go back and. Okay, all right, so the report is public, and then we gotta go in the back. Enclosed is like in secret. Okay, all right, nice to see you.
I'll just do, yeah, open, we'll just do our quarterly policing report here, so we can just scroll down. One thing I will say, we talked about body worn cameras in that opening little letter. Drayton Valley is wearing them, you can see there. Green means I'm not recording you, so we're good there. If it's flashing red, it means we're recording. So Drayton Valley was the first for Western Alberta District to get them, so
Oh, wow.
we are basically kind of the trial project. We're close enough to our support services in Edmonton that they picked us in Evansburg to be first. So every member in Drayton Valley, you can see, we are wearing them. So kind of the protocol is now, we're going to be telling the public as soon as we come up, this interaction's recorded on a body worn camera, just so that everybody knows it's audio, video recorded. So, it's been a long time coming. It got put in by mandated by the federal government quite a few years back, but we are here.
Good.
And we finally have them on. So you can expect that when you're dealing with us, and everybody can. Moving on, we'll just do a quick update to our community priorities. So obviously crime reduction is the focus of Drayton Valley Detachment, specifically property crime. We did not have our Western Alberta District crew visit this past quarter, but they will be here in the month of December. But we work, to be honest, we work more with our Central Alberta District crew team that works out of Leduc than we do with the one out of Grand Prairie, even though they're in our divisional team, just because our property crime flow goes a lot with Brett and Thorsby, so, and into the Buck Lake, that kind of area. So our property offenders cross our border more to the south, which causes us to deal with CAD crew quite a bit. We did a couple different projects with them that I'll talk about later on. This past quarter, we did 94 curfew checks this last quarter. Our goal for the year was 120, so in 3 months we hit 94, so we're going to blow that out of the water, but that's good. It's keeping people accountable to the court conditions they've been released on. We had our town hall for community engagement, which was, I thought it went really well. And then our drug trafficking, we've already done 2 proactive drug investigations. They were, both of those seizures were in the community of Drayton Valley, but as we know, drugs flow across town and county borders. So our goal for the year was 2. We hit that in the first quarter. We'll probably double that goal. We're kind of on track to do a couple more. Next kind of thing is just kind of our community engagement. Just to highlight, one of the other proactive things we're involved in is our integrated offender management. So that's, we have our high needs prolific offenders that are involved in what's called integrated offender management, and it's kind of a wraparound service with us and numerous community stakeholders, probation, Alberta Works, there's a number of addictions, and they all get to the table and try and bridge this person out of their life of crime. So we're fairly active with that. We were originally, us and Breton were the pilot project for the rural, and so we've carried that on down the line. We continue to do our coffee with seniors, which is fun. And that, currently, we have, out of our 8 established positions for the province, we have 7 filled. We're still waiting on the sergeant position. That job has closed, and there were 6 applicants, so we're just waiting for the person who won that job to be named. It should hopefully come down in the next month. And then we will be full, 8 out of 8. those are stats. They're not super fun, but yeah, we're still seeing those stats kind of run just for the quarter. So we saw a downturn in July and September, which is good for us. But we have seen an uptick in the year overall. We're still seeing, the most recent stats I have, I just got them, we're still seeing about a 30% increase in property crime for the county. So while these stats, that is down in the beginning of the summer, I think that stat was at about 50% increase, so we've slowed that trend, and we hope to continue that, but we are seeing a bit of an uptick. That does have to do with our reporting push that we've continued to report, and I think you could hear that echoed at our town hall, that we need to report. So that does push our stats up a little bit. Other than that, I'll take questions.
How's your compliment for cyber theft, identity theft? Do you have enough support for that kind of stuff? Because I'm just looking at this one incident that's 4 months in the making, and the guy is relentless. You know, constantly having to change credit cards 7 times with MasterCard, 3 times with American Express, 4 times with the Visa, bank accounts twice. It's just a headache.
So we could always use more support in that, especially for the general duty member who is tasked with numerous investigations. That is hard for them to manage. So yeah, I mean, I would never say no to more support. There are designated units for that, and specifically for that, but they are also overwhelmed. That's, you know, we respond to emerging trends, and that's one of the big emerging trends right now. So I think we could always use more support for that, because it is really hard for an officer based in Drayton Valley to work that investigation, and the hours it takes, the amount of orders they have to get. Banks don't just give up information freely. And so it is a complex investigation that takes a ton of time.
Yeah.
Yep. I hear your pain.
Yeah, it's, I can't imagine how you find these guys. You know, like, they have no address, they have no nothing.
Yep.
And yet they still are managing to get around. This is a personal, for you guys that don't know, this is a personal thing with me. So I was identity theft stolen around September, and it's been ongoing for 4 months, and just constant, like, it can not bankrupt you, but it puts you in a very tender situation with your banking, with your credit cards, with stuff. And so I'm just wondering, I never really thought it was possible, but I was in the lineup on Thursday at the Treasury branch, and there was a guy talking about how he got, you know, robbed, you know, and he's trying to figure out who's to blame. And but anyway, he was talking like 100,000
Yep.
that he got robbed on. So
Yep.
so it's becoming more prevalent. I never even heard of it really till I got hit on it.
Yeah, it definitely is.
This isn't about me. I'm just using it as an example.
Yeah, it definitely
Glenn,
is.
go ahead.
So, yeah, I know I told you at least 8 months before that happened that
Yeah.
it was going on, so you knew, you
Yeah, I
could have
know.
taken some precautions.
But you boiled that into the ice clouds or something, the chemtrails
So-
and the Sasquatch story. And
I tried to tell you. So with the lady that runs the pod said that she's not getting a lot of help down there. Are you guys kind of avoiding that area, or I guess the calls came in, there's not a lot that, she's complaining that there's not a lot getting done?
Well, we can't avoid that area. We drive past it every day.
I know.
It's right across from our detachment. No, and I'm not sure why she'd feel that way with the pods. I know this is more a town thing, but they've just hired security, so they now have security there overnight, and I've been told
That
it's
might
going a
help,
lot
yeah.
better. Yeah. So, no, we're there enough.
So on another note, with another piece of information that I just learned at RMA, I took the elected officials education program on public engagement. And in it, the teacher basically said that the word stakeholder, don't use it ever. It's now deemed racist and offensive. And the reason is, yeah, it's stakes were used to demarcate the land that the people took or occupied or steal. So it's to Indigenous, they find it to be offensive. So, yeah, I see you've got it laced in page 4 and 5. But I thought I'd give you the heads up that, yeah, as of January last of this year, basically, that word became a no-go. So I didn't know either, and the whole class didn't know, but apparently it's a thing. And that's RMA, that's, like I said, that's what's coming from them. Stakeholder.
Well, thank you for that.
I would be careful with that because I think it came from like a consultant that we used that made the presentation. That's one person, honestly, when it's the first time I've heard about it, so I take it with a grain of salt.
Good to know. The other thing I'll do, I'll introduce the officers that are here. I was asked last time if we could bring them so you guys can meet. This is Constable Justin DeRoche. He's been in Drayton Valley for almost 3, so he's one of our more senior officers here and spent some time in another policing services prior to that, so he's got lots of experience in the uniform. And we have Constable Richard Roper over there. He's our second newest. He won't even wave. Look at him, just straight-faced, eh? Richard's been here, what, 2? Almost 2, yeah. So, yeah. Do you guys want Sergeant Gillies now?
I like to get to know people. Where are you from? Was Drayton Valley, this area, what you expected? Are you urban and then got to move out to the country chasing cows? I'm sure was not at the top of your list or training at depot, but I'm sure you've probably, after being here 2-3 years, you've chased a few cows.
Well, I'm initially from Jamaica. I moved to New Brunswick, the Miramichi, 2017. I went to depot, did not know about Drayton Valley, it was on the list. But then once I realized where I'm coming, I started with my research, started with the community, and what it has to offer. Like, it's a small community that the Miramichi that I'm used to, but it's quiet, right? And I found the gate personally isn't as much of what I dealt with in New Brunswick. So I appreciated that. I'm not saying it's not hidden, you know, it's over and above it, so it's good. I like the inside. So, yeah. Dreadlock. But yeah, it's a good learning environment. I get to do a lot of stuff here. And I get to interact a lot with the community as a whole. So there's the good side and then the bad side. Pick up every point, right? And you each with the tenacity and the delicacy required given the circumstances.
I think so. All right, well, I'll be back up, but I'll let Sergeant Gillies go.
See, I'm glad I asked the question. We would never know.
All right, well, good afternoon. I'm Rob Gillies. Today with me I have Staff Sergeant Angela Gilchrist. So I'm in charge of operations at Thorsby Breton Detachment, and as you know, Dwayne has been away. He may be back in the new year at some point, we're just not sure yet. He's an acting inspector in St. Albert Detachment right now. So in the interim, we have Staff Sergeant Angela Gilchrist. She has a wealth of experience from Fort McMurray to Red Deer to Wetaskiwin. So certainly it'll be a bit of a change of pace for her, but she has a lot of knowledge and experience that will assist us. So, right on. thank you. So just the first little bit there just has to deal with body worn cameras. Obviously, Ryan talked about that. We don't have them yet. It'll be in the next soon, hopefully 6 to 12 months, hopefully sooner. We're all eager and willing to get that going, so it's just a matter of putting in the infrastructure within our detachments and then getting that going. So can't come soon enough, in my opinion, and we're looking forward to it. So yeah, absolutely. Maybe we can even show some videos up here at some point. I don't know, but see what that looks like when it comes. But some of our community priorities, we have crime reduction, community engagement, and traffic reduction of impaired driving. So to start with, property crime, we monitor this through our prolific offender checks and our hotspot checks. During this quarter, we did 114 prolific offender checks. So that's checking people on curfew, on 24-hour house arrest, community sentence orders, parole, all that kind of stuff. We also monitor hotspot checks, so that's every time we go through a community and are being visible. So, you know, we go through Lindale or Buck Creek, or we track that. During this quarter, so the last 3 months, we were in our small communities just over 5,100 times. I think that just goes to show that when members aren't writing reports and aren't sitting in the office, they are actually doing proactive work. They're out there on the road trying to deter crime and be visible. Community engagement, we did 3 council meetings. Nothing alarming there, but we do have a town hall in Breton for January 8th, tentatively scheduled. So that'll kind of cover off the Brazeau County area around Breton, which is, we're looking forward to it. Traffic impaired driving reduction. During this quarter, so the last 3 months, we have done 36 check stops and had 114 violator contacts. That's proactive traffic stops. May not have a ticket in all of those, maybe a written warning, or may have, 3 in 1 traffic stop. I'm not sure, but 114 traffic stops and 36 check stops. During these check stops, our members liaised with the Alberta Sheriffs, Fish and Wildlife. We did some joint check stops with them. During the check stops, 491 vehicles were stopped, and 3 immediate roadside sanctions were imposed for impaired driving. So that's the 3-month driver suspension, and then you have to reapply with the province to get your license back. So the next ones just have to do with community consultations, just tracking our council meetings. We can skip over that. And the second page of that one, so you can keep going to the second one. And that will be that one's correct. That'll be, so one is Thorsby, one is the kind of the Breton side. So just because we're Breton, that kind of has to do with that. So I won't bore you with that too much. Persons crimes were down 36% in the last 3 months, so Q2. Property crime were down 15%, so that looks pretty good. Nothing else alarming there that I can see. Of our 15 established positions, we have currently 12 officers working, so we have 3 hard vacancies. We have a corporal being transferred in at the end of December from Surrey. So he's a lateral transfer into Thorsby Detachment to take that corporal position there that's open. So we're looking forward to that. He's going to have a lot of experience. And then we have 2 hard vacancies that we're waiting for constables or new recruits or whatever they send us. So we have 6 support staff positions, and they are all filled right now. Just talked about a couple highlights. I won't bore you too much with this. July 6th, dealt with a call at the Breton Hotel. One of our members ended up arresting a female. She was charged with uttering threats and assaulting the member ×2. She appeared in court. July 10th, member did a traffic stop, found unstamped cigarettes in the vehicle. This is kind of a common reoccurring thing that we're seeing is with unstamped cigarettes, legal cigarettes. Search of that vehicle, we found firearms and ammunition along with the cigarettes. July 18th, Found a female at a residence in Breton. She had outstanding warrants. She ran. She was found. She was arrested. August, we did have that serious fatality on Highway 22. That was a kind of a tragic circumstance there with a mother dying in a head-on collision with a semi. 14-year-old male who was in the back seat as a passenger. He lived and was not seriously injured. So if you do have kids, put them in the back seat. But that was tragic. The driver of the semi was not injured in that. Just last week, we had another fatality on Highway 39 between Range Road 52 and 53, as you guys are probably all aware. A 17-year-old female was lost in that, and she was a resident at Drayton Valley, so pretty tragic. August 20th, within Warburg, we did have a stabbing. A young male, 18-year-old from Calgary, was charged with numerous offenses. He's still in custody. This was just a random attack, which is very rare. After that happened, we did meet with the village of Warburg and the school. It did happen on school property, nothing to do related to school. And met with them and just told them what we were doing and gave them some updates. And the last one there, just came upon a rollover, found a sawed-off shotgun, number of charges as a result of that. So putting any questions, that's my presentation. Guess I'll turn it back over to Ryan.
Why do you think I brought backup with me? Yeah, I just looked to my left, right?
Just before I make a motion to go in closed, I just want to say thank you to those officers. The August, I know obviously the crash in August was a little bit of time ago, but the one from last week is pretty fresh. So thank you, and condolences to the members that were on scene too as well. Sometimes we forget about those first responders and what those type of situations do to you guys. So thank you, appreciate it. So this latest one was my daughter's friend, so it's a little bit more difficult to handle, but yeah, I could just imagine the situation you guys are in, so thank you. With that, I can move to go into close for 34B, Law Enforcement RCMP Update for Section 20.
Okay. You guys can join if you want.
No, I won't make a motion. I'll just call the meeting back to order. Any direction coming out of the RCMP presentation? Who's taking this one? Glenn?
I move to receive the law enforcement RCMP update for information.
For reclamation?
Information.
Information, okay. Discussion, all those in favor? Carried unanimous, and thank you. All those in favor? That's good.
All the way back to lunch bowl.
Where's Ricochet's office? Is that the old mobile office? Well,